11:30. Who came up with 11:30? Why not a noon start? I'm not sure. All right, let's take a look at our Felco pitching matchup for this series finale. The Reds are throwing a guy who you could argue is their best pitcher right now, with all due respect to Aaron Harang. Edinson Volquez looks like an ace. He is 4-1 on the season and leads the National League in ERA with a 1.27. Even Dan Plesac says this guy has nasty stuff, so it won't be easy for the Cubs. And the Cubs counter with John Lieber, a guy who was in the rotation because of the demotion of Rich Hill. Lieber has been in the pen all season just because there was no room for him, Dan, in the rotation. And you say he really should be a starter all along.
Well, I just think that the repertoire that John Lieber features is better suited for being a starting pitcher. He's a control-type pitcher. And what makes John Lieber effective is he can control 3 pitches. He has a sinking fastball, a good slider, and an occasional changeup. And when you're coming in out of the bullpen, it really limits your repertoire. Most guys pitching out of the bullpen are 2-pitch pitchers. You don't have enough time and enough innings to establish 3 or 4 pitches. So it basically turns you into a 2-pitch pitcher. And I think he's better suited. The success he's had, he's the last Cub 20-game winner, and I thought it was just a matter of time before John Lieber broke into this rotation. I expect him to pitch very well. He's pitched very well in games that he's come in out of the bullpen. He's pitched a couple of times, 3+ innings. I'm not sure if he's going to be to the point stamina-wise that he's going to be able to go 6 or 7 innings, but I think he's going to give the Cubs a solid start. You know what you're going to get with John Lieber. He throws strikes, he works quick, and he's not afraid to throw the ball over the plate. And
that's what I want to ask you, Dan. Do you lose arm endurance when you've been in the pen? If you're not being a starter on a regular basis, can he go more than 5 innings?
I think he can, and I think the reason that he can, because most of the spring training, he was battling for that last spot with Jason Marquis. So most of his arm strength was built up until the last week of spring training. He was right in the running, in the mix for that number 5 spot in that starting rotation. And so I think his arm strength is good enough right now to be able to go 4 or 5 innings. And if he's really good in the strike zone and keeps his pitch count down, he's not a maximum effort type of pitcher. He's a control type pitcher. That's not saying that he doesn't throw the ball hard or doesn't have good stuff, but he's not a maximum effort pitcher. And I think if he can get in that 60, 75 pitch range, and it's the 5th or the 6th inning, he may be able to squeak a couple more innings out of that.
And Dan, this is the area that you've talked about. The Cubs really need to shore up the 4 and 5 spots in this rotation. Zambrano and Ryan Dempster have been getting the job done. It looks like Ted Lilly is turning the corner now. This is where the Cubs need to really shore things up.
There's no question, Gail. And this team, this is a very good team. But if you go back and you look at the nice run when they were scoring runs, they were getting some very well-pitched games. Rich Hill pitched a couple of decent games in that mix. They're going to go as far as this starting rotation takes them. Carlos Zambrano right now has been an absolute horse. Ryan Dempster has, I don't think you could have envisioned him throwing as well as he had. Ted Lilly, his last couple have been better. He's still not back to the form that he had last year in 2007. But number 4 and 5 spots have to be better because they're putting a lot of stress and a lot of wear on that bullpen. You know, we had a graphic last week that showed that the Cubs were 1st in appearances, 1st in innings pitched. Those are not statistics that you want to be in top of the National League list. You'd like to be 28th, 29th in all of baseball as far as innings pitched and appearances. And really, Carlos Marmol has been terrific, but Michael Wirtz has not been very good. Bobby Howry has yet to hit his stride. So this is a bullpen that has been used often, and you don't want to get to a point where you have guys with a lot of appearances going into the All-Star break, because you're going to need all the arms you can in that bullpen in August and September.
And Jason Marquis, another guy that the Cubs really want to see gain some consistency in the season to help with that latter part of the rotation. All right, in case you've never heard of Edinson Volquez, the Reds pitcher, before we go to break, Dan, 2 words that describe him: nasty and filthy.
Well, if you're talking about trades in baseball, this is what you'd like to have. You know, both teams really made out very well. The Texas Rangers getting Josh Hamilton. He's had a terrific start to the year for the Rangers, and Volquez has been terrific. He's got a power arm, an explosive fastball, a really good breaking ball, and he's come up with a very good changeup. You just hope with a young pitcher that he doesn't put all that together. If he has all 3 pitches working, he could be awfully tough for the Cubs.
Should be a good pitching matchup on the mound for the series finale. Coming up after our first time out, we'll take a look at the lineups for both squads. Cub fans hoping Ryan Theriot can build on his 2-hit performance from last night. More Cubs pregame live is coming your way next. Welcome back to Cubs Pregame Live. Gail Fisher and Dan Plesac here with you. And this just in, some breaking news we'll call it. You know, baseball is a dangerous sport, and not just for the players. Take a look at this. It's a little tough out there for the mascots. Gapper driving the ATV, and Mr. Redlegs goes down, Dan. Mr. Redlegs goes down, and now he's Mr. No Head.
Oh.
He just wipes out.
That's the problem, a late night after a day game, after a night game. His equilibrium was a little bit off, plus he's toting about a 75-pound head, too.
And look at that, he's mad. He's actually upset about the whole thing, you know, ruined it. And now his identity.
Gotta fix that mustache, though.
His identity, he's been outed. All right, a tough morning for Mr. Redlegs. You didn't put the thang on him, did
I didn't.
you?
No, last one, Aaron Harang was the last thing, and we'll pick another time this year. It's too early in the season to start that. Woo, woo, woo. We'll find it later. Mid-August, that's when we'll break out the thing.
All right. Well, hopefully Mr. Redlegs will be okay. I think he's probably going to get into a fight with Gapper there, who's driving that ATV a little wildly. Cubs bats haven't exactly come alive in this series. They did get a rare victory last night, scoring just 3 runs, 4, usually the magic number to get a win. Lou Piniella giving a couple of players the day off yesterday. Let's take a look at his lineup today. And those same players still off today. Mark DeRosa sitting out, Mike Votto sitting out. And Alfonso Soriano, who had a couple of hits yesterday, he's actually going to sit this one out. So Reed Johnson is in left field and is leading off.
The key right there in the number 4 slot, Aramis Ramirez. I still believe that this is the one guy on this team that the Cubs could ill afford to lose for a long stretch of time. He's their best RBI guy. He hits very good pitching. He's a tough out, and he does what all good RBI guys do. They find a way to put the ball in play with runners in scoring position. He's a very tough out. He's not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. Here you see him taking an Aaron Harang pitch right back up the middle. There's a reason that he drives in nearly 100 runs every season. He's very good at putting the ball in play. And one of the things that makes him doubly dangerous is the fact that he will drive the ball to right field and use the whole ballpark in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. He's not a one-dimensional type hitter that's a straight pull hitter or a guy that hits the ball to the opposite field. He's very good at looking for a pitch on the inner half of the plate when the count's in his favor, and with 2 strikes, he spreads out a little bit, and he will shoot the ball to right field. A very difficult out late in the game.
Ronnie Cedeno getting another shot at second base, and this is the beauty of this Cubs team is they do have some bench guys who can step in. You can give some guys the day off, and Cedeno's been doing a nice job. He's
been really, really good, Gail. Here you see a nice protect swing with 2 strikes. That was really the biggest hit of the game last night, giving Carlos Zambrano a nice 3-run cushion right here. A good pitch from Aaron Harang, a curveball on the outer third of the plate that he just serves into right field. You know, one of the things that is so different between the American League and the National League, as a National League manager, you're going to have to use your roster. You can't really hide anybody, and that goes for guys in the bullpen, your extra outfielders, and your extra infielders. And the more you can get them into the mix, get them steady work, get them a few at-bats if you can. And it's very difficult to come off the bench if you haven't swung a bat in 4 or 5 days and come in and be expected to either get a bunt down or to get a big hit or keep an inning going when you haven't had an at-bat. And Lou Piniella does a tremendous job of keeping all the guys on this roster involved, and he tries not to let guys go more than 3 or 4 days without either getting them in the game for the last couple innings and making sure that they get an at-bat.
Ryan Theriot hitting .325, so he's also another dangerous one in this Cubs lineup, getting the job done. He and Giovanni Soto, who I wonder, Dan, if they're going to run the risk of working this guy to death, but they do have the day off. So Theriot and Gio getting it done for the Cubs.
Well, they've been really good. And Giovanni Soto, he had that little stretch there where 8 consecutive bats where he had struck out. But I tell you, you have to tip your cap to him. He's a very good hitter. And whatever he can do offensively is a plus. He's handled his pitching staff very well. He's thrown out some runners. He's calling a good game. And it's a very difficult thing to ask a young catcher to take a pitching staff like this. And it's doubly tough when you're on a team that is expected to win. You have some veteran pitchers on the staff. He's having to learn on the job what they like to do, their strengths, their weaknesses, understanding when a certain pitch is working on a particular day. He's done a very good job.
And normally they give the starting catcher the day off from a night game to a day game, but with the day off for the team tomorrow, he's throwing him out there again. So.
Well, and he's a young player, and you know what? He can handle it, and it's early in the part of the season right now. I'm sure that if the Cubs were in Cincinnati and this were July and August and it was a hot, sticky night last night and, you know, temperatures in the mid to high 80s this afternoon, you know, later on during the season you try to take care of guys, but I think he's feeling good about himself, swinging the bat very well, and it's early enough in the season right now that I'm sure he talked his way into Lou Piniella to put him back in the lineup, and I think you'll see him do well this afternoon.
Former Cub Paul Bako catching for the Reds as we take a look at Cincinnati's starting lineup for the day. Another former Cub, Corey Patterson, leading off and playing center field. Wow, it's former Cub City here as Jerry Hairston Jr. is in the two-hole playing shortstop. A couple of dangerous guys. Ken Griffey Jr. always. He's had about 3 hits in this series so far. Adam Dunn in left field, and Edwin Encarnacion actually playing very well at third.
I think the big key for John Lieber is going to be containing Ken Griffey and Adam Dunn, 2 left-handed hitters, and Adam Dunn is kind of a all or nothing. He's going to hit the ball all the ballpark. He's also prone to a lot of strikeouts. But Ken Griffey Jr. was slowly rounding back into form. It took him a little while last year, almost into June, to really start get going. He had a couple of really good at-bats last night. Here in particular, changeup from Carlos Zambrano that he hit into the right field to Fukadomi on a line. He's starting to swing the bat much better, and you often see this with players as they get up there in age. You know, you'll see a lot of veteran players get off the slow starts in April, and May they start to heat up. Hopefully, Ken Griffey will start heating up when the Cubs get out of town.
Dan, I have to ask you this because Lou Piniella brought it up. He says the Cubs are now a marked team because of their success. He's noticing other teams are really happy and enjoy beating the Cubs. The Brewers even mocked them in a victory last week. Do you agree? Does this matter? Does it affect the Cubs' mentality at all?
Listen, when you field a team that has Aramis Ramirez and Derek Lee and Fukadomi and Alfonso Soriano and Carlos Zambrano, you're talking about 5 or 6 marquee players, not just here in the city of Chicago, but in baseball in general. And sure, you know, they were division winners until somebody knocks them off. They're the reigning champs of the Central Division. This is a team that had a lot of upgrades, bringing in Fukadomi, some upgrades in the pitching staff. This is a team that should win this division.
They should just go with it. If other teams, if they're the team to beat and other teams enjoy beating them, the Cubs should obviously just have that Cubby swagger, as Lou Piniella would call it. First pitch between the Cubs and Reds is coming up at 11:35 Chicago time. Dan and I will be back with more after a quick timeout.
Last night, Carlos Zambrano was dealing as the Cubs got back on the winning track. Today, former ace of the staff, John Lieber, returns to the rotation. It's the Cubs and the Reds next. As always here in Cincinnati, a lot of Cub fans make the trek into Great American Ballpark. This is a rivalry, the Cubs and the Reds, that goes back to 1890. And on a beautiful day from Cincinnati, it's the rubber game, the Cubs and the Reds here on Comcast Sportsnet. And good morning, everyone. Along with Bob Renly, I'm Len Casper. The Cubs were able to even up this series last night with a nice 3-0 win. They got a run in the first inning. Aramis Ramirez back in the lineup, and it was really all Carlos Zambrano needed.
Yeah, and an RBI by Aramis Ramirez followed a stolen base by Ryan Theriot. It's not how many bases you steal, it's when do you steal them. And Theriot got himself into scoring position on this stolen base. And with Aramis Ramirez, to quote Joni Mitchell, don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you got till it's gone. Aramis out of the lineup for 3 days, but producing right away when he's inserted back into the lineup.
And he's had big numbers in his career against the Cincinnati Reds, 23 home runs, and he is in the lineup once again today. Alfonso Soriano getting a day off, so is Mark DeRosa for the second straight day. John Lieber back in the Cubs rotation, Rich Hill back at AAA, and Edinson Volquez for the Reds leads the National League in ERA.
Yeah, the Cubs saw Volquez back at Wrigley Field a couple of weeks ago. Good, strong power arm with a great straight changeup. And for John Lieber, you love love to have him pitch on getaway days. You know he's going to work fast and throw strikes.
Probably 75 to 80 pitches or so for Lieber, and coming up, he makes his first start as a Chicago Cub since 2002. Cubs and the Reds next.
Cubs baseball on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you in part by Chevy. Log on now to ChevyDriveChicago.com. Check us out today, ChevyDriveChicago.com. Midas for brakes, oil changes, tires, and more. Trust the Midas touch. Your Chicago area Lexus dealer who invites you to test drive a Lexus today. Menards. At Menards, you'll find big lumber yards, big selection, and big savings. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, we want to give you the security to experience wellness everywhere. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Cadillac, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit. And by Southwest Airlines. With Southwest Airlines, you're now free to be more productive. Visit southwest.com today.
Warm temperatures and a little bit of sun today. Should be a beautiful afternoon. It's the rubber game as the Cubs try to end this trip at 3-3. Right-hander Edinson Volquez, who currently leads the league with a 1.27 earned run average, will face veteran John Lieber. And Carlos Zambrano last night went 8 innings, the longest start for a Cub this year. And it was his best start, and he's had a lot of good ones already.
He's had a lot of good ones, but when his team needs him the most, he's able to rise to the occasion, and certainly that was the case last night. His stuff was electric, very aggressive in the strike zone, and the Reds offensively did him a lot of favors in the middle innings of the ball game. A lot of very short pitch innings, allowing Zambrano to work into the 8th. We asked Lou about it, whether he considered letting Zambrano go back out for the 9th. He had thrown probably about 113, 115 pitches and would have put him up over the 125, 130 pitch mark. Kerry Wood needed an inning of work, so it all worked out well for the Cubs last night.
It did not work out very well for Mr. Redlegs, one of the Reds mascots, who took a little spill as we were doing our pregame hit with Gale and Dan. Right? Oh! Whoa! Now, fortunately, he's all right. But it was a nasty tumble. Oh, man.
You're right. He was okay. He got back up, put his head back on, and climbed right back on that four-wheeler and took another lap around the ballpark. So good to see he's back on his feet.
He plays hard, his uniform dirty already.
Yeah. They don't have to call up another mascot from AAA. He will be able to stay on the active roster.
Wow. So we're waiting for the Reds to take the field, and here they come. And this might be the biggest crowd of the series. Just over 20,000 Monday night. 21,153 last night. And let's check in on the Cubs Southwest starting lineup. They look for their 20th win of the season. They're in second, 2.5 back of the St. Louis Cardinals. Johnson in there for Soriano. Terrio, Lee Ramirez. Kosuke Fukudome is in right. Giovanni Soto at 349. Right now he's 6th in the National League in batting average. Ronnie Cedeno at 373. PA and Lieber go 8 and 9.
Take a look at the Reds defensively. Adam Dunn in left field. Former Cub Corey Patterson out in center field. Ken Griffey Jr. over in right field. Encarnacion and Jerry Hairston Jr. on the left side of the infield. Brandon Phillips, Joey Votto on the right side. Paul Bako once again doing the catching today for the right-hander Edinson Volquez. Cubs saw him back at Wrigley Field earlier this season. He's coming off a strong start against the Atlanta Braves. Team made an error behind him. He gave up a 2-run home run to Brian McCann immediately following. That was the only 2 runs that Atlanta was able to score against Volquez, but the Reds were shut out in that ball game.
So he takes his final warm-up tosses. And Bill Welke will work the plate today. A native of Michigan. Also went to Western Michigan University. Guccione, the other Welke, Tim, the crew chief, and Chuck Merriweather on the bases. John Lieber started the year in the bullpen, but with Rich Hill getting sent back to AAA to work out some of his control problems, and we'll have more on Rich later. We can tell you he walked 1 in 5 innings in his first start with Iowa last night. So Lieber fills in for the time being, and Reed Johnson will lead it off. He went 2 for 2 against Volquez in that start Bob mentioned at Wrigley Field in April. Series tied at 1-1. The season series so far, Cubs have won 3 of the first 5. And the right-hander working, and a first pitch strike at 93 on his fastball. Came over from Texas in the offseason in that Josh Hamilton deal on December 21st. Swing and a miss. Went after the breaking ball and missed it.
Volquez was voted, or rather selected, as the best minor league pitcher in the Rangers organization last year. That's an award that's named after Nolan Ryan. And back in '05, he was the winning pitcher in the Futures game at the All-Star celebration.
His 2-strike pitch. Johnson very late, and Matt Sinatra with an early wake-up call. Just able to get out of the way down at first base.
You see, he's a 4-pitch pitcher. He basically relies on a fastball, a changeup. He will throw a curve and a slider to right-handed hitters. His fastball sits in the low 90s. He can touch the mid-90s on a good day. And as I mentioned, the minor league pitcher of the year last year in the Texas Rangers organization.
On one hop, it's former Cub Jerry Hairston Jr. So 1 out, and it'll bring up the Cubs shortstop Ryan Theriot. 2 hits last night, the key stolen base, and the game-winning run in the top of the first.
Boy, the sun figures to be a factor at some point in this ball game today. Very bright sky here in Cincinnati. We're thankful for that right now. Bright sunshine.
Now, we've heard about some showers, but it sounds like they'll be in the evening hours. Now, the bad sun fields maybe center right now, and definitely at some point right field. So anything up in the air on the right side could be a problem. The wind right now is going from right to left.
And wind really didn't have much effect on the ball game last night.
Look out, Ryan Theriot. I don't know how he got out of the way of that pitch. 3-0.
Now, the ball game last night was the 422nd game played here at Great American Ballpark, and only the 31st time that there was not a home run hit in the ball game.
There's ball 4, and only one time since this place opened has there been a streak of 2 straight games without a home run by either team. That was back in August of 2005 when the Florida Marlins were here. So what that tells you is there's a pretty good chance there will be a home run today, and you'd have to think if it's going to be hit, it would be to left.
Now's as good a time as any, D. Lee. Go ahead. Volquez can lose that strike zone from time to time. He had back-to-back 4-walk games earlier this season, one of them against the Cubs, and then the following start against the Dodgers.
A good breaking ball as Derek Lee vacated. Wind really kicking up. And you can see how hard the wind is blowing. Actually, Derek Lee's pants, you see the trousers there below his knees really flapping in the wind. And that can actually affect the pitches.
Oh, no question about it. They used to say that knuckleball pitchers loved the days when the wind would blow out to center field because they're throwing their knuckleball into the wind and it caused it to move so erratically. Forecast is Chipper, not Chipper Jones, just Chipper.
Well, if it were in reference to Chipper Jones, it would mean it's a stellar forecast because he has gotten off to an unbelievable start, as we mentioned last night. The 0-2 pitch. Downstairs, 1-2.
Yeah, the general opinion is when pitchers, especially breaking ball pitchers, or I mentioned knuckleball pitchers, or guys who throw a heavy sinker, throw that pitch into the wind, they get a lot more movement than when the wind is at their back. Of course, when the wind's at their back, it holds up fly balls hit to the outfield, so quite a conundrum.
Toward the hole, it's cut off by Encarnacion. They get one and they get two. Surprised they were able to turn that double play, but Encarnacion's momentum was taking him towards second base. 5-4-3 on the Twin killing. The Reds are coming up. Dusty Baker's club has now dropped 6 of 7. They're 9 out already in the Central, 13-21 and in last. And now the Reds Southwest starting lineup. A lot of former Cubs in there. Patterson, Hairston, and Bako. You have Griffey batting third. He had been hitting second.
Let's take a look at the Cubs defensively, brought to you by Rico. Move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. Johnson, PA, Fukudome across the outfield. Ramirez, Terrio, Cedeno, Lee across the infield. Giovanni Soto doing the catcher for right-handed veteran John Lieber.
Talk fast.
Talk fast. He works fast. Love to play defense behind a guy like John Lieber. You have to be on your toes all the time. He's around the strike zone. You know you're going to get a lot of action.
First start for him since June 20th of last year. Patterson went. So 0-2 on Corey. First start for Lieber in a Cubs uniform since August 1st of 2002. And a good start. Good morning, good afternoon, good night on Corey Patterson. This is old hat for John Lieber as a Chicago Cub. Look at what he did in 2001.
Stellar 20-6 record, ERA of 3.80. This is his first start since August 1st, 02.
And even though, Bob, the Cubs lost the game Friday night, I thought that was one of the bigger pitching performances for the Cubs this year. After Rich Hill could not get out of the first inning, Lieber was able to give the Cubs 3 2/3 innings, 5 hits, no runs, kept them in the game. Eventually they got it to extras.
Not only did he keep him in the ball game, but he kept a couple guys down in the bullpen. Usually when your starter gets blown out in the first inning, you figure you're going to have to go through a lot of guys in that ball game, and John Lieber was the guy to step up and eat up the innings necessary to at least keep the Cubs in the ball game.
He was a Philly last year. Couple of injuries, neither related to his pitching arm. At the end of spring training, he suffered a right oblique strain and then went back on the DL in late June. Popped up by Jerry Hairston. Foul ground. Cedeno and Lee are over there. It's out of play. All right, you ready for? Are you going to write this down? You might want to.
Let me get my pencil.
An avulsion of the peroneus longus tendon. Basically, had a right foot injury.
I hate it when that happens.
And he had season-ending surgery on July 6th. So you are averse to avulsions? 2-2. Another foul.
Don't you think you ought to be? Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's really changed in the game of baseball, and for the better. There's no question that the advancements we've had in medical technology, guys can be diagnosed quicker, can heal quicker, get back on the field quicker. But it used to be, yeah, he's got a sore foot. You can pitch with a sore foot. Go get him. Take an aspirin. You're all right.
Broken bat and a barehanded play by Terrio, but it'll be a hit. So Hairston with the first hit for either team.
A weird looking play, got right in his kitchen. Just a little floater over the head of Aramis Ramirez. Really no chance for Terrio. An ill-advised throw right there, even though he got it to Derek Lee. No reason to throw that ball across the diamond right there.
A lot of speculation about the future of Ken Griffey Jr. Both he and Adam Dunn can become free agents at the end of the season. Walt Jocketty said any trade talk might be a little premature, but there's no question the Reds will have to seriously consider trading one, if not both, if their fortunes don't change pretty quickly. A fly ball left center. And the center fielder, PA, calling off the left fielder, Johnson. Now, Griffey has really made it pretty clear that he wouldn't mind retiring as a Seattle Mariner, but I was listening to a radio interview about an hour or so ago, and he said, I'd like to finish my career as a Mariner, but it could just be I sign a one-day contract. It's not that I have to play for the Mariners, but that was the team that gave me an opportunity to play baseball. And there was an article in the USA Today, and it sounds like the Mariners would possibly be interested in bringing him back at some point.
He was a very popular player up there in the Pacific Northwest, and why not? He did a lot of great things for that organization, and there is precedent for guys signing that one-day contract so they can retire as a member of the organization that they started with. Most recently, Mike Lieberthal signed a one-day contract with the Phillies so he could retire as a Philly.
2 outs in the inning. Hairston still at first. Brandon Phillips is hitting cleanup. Just to tell you about the control of John Lieber. In now 20 innings of work this year, he has walked 2, and they've both been intentional. So he has not given up an unintentional walk in his first 20 innings. And he's always been good at throwing strikes. A chopper to short. Terrio will throw to first. Phillips is out. And a good start for John Lieber. 0-0 after 1 from Cincy. The Cubs take on the Diamondbacks this Saturday at 2:40. Kids, get to the ballpark early. The first 10,000 children 13 and younger will get a Webkins Lilkins Black Bear compliments of Kimberly Clark. Len and Bob and our Comcast Sportsnet crew from Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. We're in the second inning. No score. Aramis Ramirez will lead it off. And following will be Kosuke Fukudome and Giovanni Soto. A flare. Votto in foul territory makes the catch. Waist high on the pick. 1 out.
Against the Cubs at Wrigley Field, Volquez threw a lot of first pitch fastball. Not surprising to see Aramis Ramirez and other Cubs go up there and try to be aggressive early in the sequence. A lot of times it's maybe a little bit away from your normal approach at the plate, but you have to know that opposing pitcher and his strengths and weaknesses. Volquez likes to get ahead in the count and then use that breaking ball and that straight changeup.
Little dribbler. Votto will get it. The flip to Volquez. They went glove to glove. Nice play by Votto. A tough stretch here for Kosuke going into today. He has been hitless over his last 3 games.
And another example there. We know that Kosuke is one of the most patient hitters in the game today, but he attacks a first pitch from Volquez, rolls over a fastball away, and hits that easy tapper to the first base side.
Yeah, he is still among the major league leaders and pitches per plate appearance, but instead of leading the way, he is currently 4th on the list. Nick Swisher, Andrew Jones, and David Wright are ahead of Kosuke. The Cubs still as a team lead the major leagues and pitches seen per plate appearance at 3.93. They're tied with Cleveland in that department, and the walk for Ryan Terrio in the first inning was the 509th time a Cub has reached base. That leads the major leagues. Only team with at least 500 times on base. The Cardinals with 497. The Cubs bases loaded streak, which I think reached 16 games, came to an end last night. See if Soto gets something he can really handle here on a 3-1. Nope, he takes the walk. Now our Coors Light freeze can. Big play in the ball game last night. You pointed out Ronnie Cedeno was able to put his knee down. Joey Votto could not get back to second base. He was picked off by Carlos Zambrano.
Oh, that's a great play by Zambrano and Ronnie Cedeno. The throw was a little bit to the first base side of the bag, but Ronnie dropped that right knee down in front of second base, and Joey Votto had nowhere to go but right into the thigh of Ronnie Cedeno. A great pickoff play. Well, that's one of the things that you can glean from an advanced scouting report. Also, a lot of base stealers are very consistent. They always slide head first, or they always slide feet first. And on pickoff attempts, base stealers, some of them always go back on their feet, some of them always go back diving. And if you know what that runner is likely to do, you can be a little more aggressive and drop that knee down there and block the bag. Of course, you wouldn't want to do it if he's coming in feet first, but if the guy's diving back head first, that's a good play.
We had a good shot of the dome of Carlos Zambrano. He's going capless at the moment. Patterson goes back, and that's the inning. 2-out walk, no runs. Still 0-0 after an inning and a half.
Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Kia Motors. Kia, the power to surprise. Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. And by Nissan and your Nissan dealer.
Don't miss the action as the Cubs take on the Arizona Diamondbacks this Sunday. Game time 1:20, but be sure to arrive early. The first 10,000 women 14 and older will get a Cubs pink cap, compliments of MasterCard. And what is it? The first broadcaster over 50.
That's right.
Pizza.
Breakfast of champions. You got to love it.
Extra sauce, please. The 0-1 pitch to Joey Votto. Low and inside. If you look at what John Lieber has done in his career versus righties and lefties, this on paper looks like a tough matchup. He has always been better against right-handers than left-handers. And right on cue, Joey Votto with a home run. That's his 5th home run of the year. And the Reds strike first. Not much doubt about that one.
Well, for Votto, his 5th home run of the season. 3 of those have come against the Cubs. This comes on a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. You see Soto sets up inside. Might have been a cutter. Ball stayed right in the middle of the plate for Votto.
Outside corner, strike on Adam Dunn. So as I was saying,
well, that stands to reason. I mean, John Lieber, arguably his best pitch is that slider. He does have a good fastball.
Oh man, Adam Dunn. They go back to back. That's his 2nd of the series. Well, we mentioned it right off the top. It's rare that you don't see home runs in this ballpark, and after the 2 teams went homerless last night, they're firing off the fireworks.
Oh, another pitch right down the middle. Giovanni Soto had scooted out onto that outside corner trying to get a tailing fastball away from Adam Dunn. It came right down the middle of the plate.
2nd time the Reds have gone back to back. The last time they did it was in April, and it was the next 2 guys coming up, Encarnacion and Bako. Well, there's some college kid sleeping in a dorm somewhere nearby. Who's not sleeping now? Tried to sleep late and heard all the fireworks. How about that swing by Encarnacion? He had no idea where the ball was. Little lazy pop up to Cedeno.
Wasn't it Encarnacion? I think that happened to him last season. Early in the year, he popped one up like that, didn't know where it went, failed to run down the first baseline, and then the skipper, Jerry Narin, took him out of the ball game immediately.
Yeah, you're right.
Just kind of throws his bat at the ball and didn't really see where the baseball went at all. Finally looks up and sees it's out there in fair territory, but by then it's way too late to do anything.
Paul Bako deep to right, and Kosuke's going to watch another one. That's 3 out of 4. And all left-handed hitters. Uncle on the fireworks. We get it. Lou's pacing. I don't know if Lou's going to head out. I don't think he is. A pitcher coming up, Volquez. Three to nothing. Votto, Dunn, and Bako have all left the yard.
Boy, once again, just poor location. Middle of the plate, elevated just a little bit.
That one smacked into center. The second hit for Volquez, and Larry's going to get on the phone.
Well, with the off day tomorrow, it's all hands on deck today. Everybody's available. Everybody at this rate may be used in this ball game today. You can't let it get too far out of control with Volquez on the mound for the Reds. He's a guy that doesn't give up much.
Left-hander Sean Marshall very quickly getting ready.
Now, this is one instance where the fact that John Lieber likes to work so quickly works against the Cubs. You need him to slow down right now. Give Sean Marshall an opportunity to get loose down in that bullpen. I mean, Sean Marshall has said that as the season has progressed, he's gotten more accustomed to getting up and getting ready quickly in that bullpen, but you'd still like to give him as much time as possible.
Patterson just broke his bat. So 2 strikes on him. Votto led off the inning with a home run. Dunn followed by finding the seats in right. Encarnacion popped out, and then Bako hit a blast. And now the pitcher Volquez is at first, not being held by Derek Lee. And the pitch to Patterson, check swing foul.
Well, you think the Cubs don't know Corey Patterson well. Giovanni Soto was almost standing straight up behind home plate, wanted that pitch up in the zone. We know from past experience Corey will chase fastballs up out of the zone. He also will chase breaking balls in the dirt.
And you see where Gio wants it. And no play for Derek.
Well, when Patterson struck out to start the ball game for the Reds today, he did swing and miss it. A couple sliders down and in. That same pitch that he just fouled off right there.
Going into 2008, John Lieber had given up a .640 OPS to right-handed hitters, but a much different story versus lefties. .856. And his troubles against lefties bitten them again today. Called strike 3. Got the call on the fastball on the outside corner.
Little tailing fastball at 88 miles an hour right on the corner. Giovanni Soto able to hold it there close to that outside corner and get the call from Bill Welke.
Here's Hairston with 2 outs. Can't say it's good news that Lieber's given up 3 home runs, but at least nobody was on base. This game is not out of reach.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination the way this ballpark plays. As I said, though, the concern you have is that Volquez has been so good this year. He just doesn't give up a lot of runs.
Jerry came over to the Cubs prior to 2005 in the Sammy Sosa, Mike Fontenot deal.
Well, if history holds true, at some point today, Jerry Hairston will hit a screaming line drive foul down that third baseline.
And it'll be way foul.
Yeah, his average wasn't great when putting the ball between the white lines, but he was batting about 800 pulling the ball foul down the third baseline.
He's from Naperville, Illinois, went to Naperville North. At first he caught in high school before he became a shortstop. And he pulls this one deep to left field. Reed Johnson watches that ball go. It's fair. And Lieber has given up 4 home runs. In the second inning, it's 5-0. That's Hairston's first.
Hairston able to keep this one fair. Pitches out over the plate once again. Jerry Hairston Jr. gets good extension. A lot of backspin on that fly ball just inside the foul pole.
Swing and a miss by Jr. He's the 8th batter of the inning. The Reds were shut out last night on just 4 hits. And all those hits were singles. They have 4 hits in the second inning alone. 5 hits make that, and 4 have been home runs. And now the Menards big lumbers stacked. Fastest to 600. Griffey is 3 home runs away. He's also 1 home run away from number 200 in a Reds uniform. There have only been 3 players in history to hit 300 homers with one team and then 2 homers with another. Mark McGwire, Rafael Palmeiro, and Jimmy Fox. Griffey's trying to become the 4th member of that list. This might be a tough play. Yeah, no play. He hit a ground ball to second base, and it's a hit. Cedeno had to range a little bit to his right, and that's all it took for Griffey to reach first with no problem.
That's the alignment that a lot of teams use with strong left-handed pull hitters. I think Ronnie might have been just a little too deep. I mean, that's where we've seen the Cubs play against Junior, but it doesn't really leave a lot of room between the second baseman and the right fielder. You much prefer to be a little bit shallower so you can make a play on that slow roller to the right side.
Brandon Phillips, who made the final out of the first inning, potentially could make the last out of the second.
Well, Sean Marshall is ready to go in the Cubs bullpen, just standing down there now watching the action.
A kick and the pitch, a swing and a foul tip, 2 strikes. This is the only game going on right now. There is some afternoon action on the West Coast a little bit later. Mets and the Dodgers and the Orioles are in Oakland. Everything else is tonight, including Cliff Lee and Chin-Ming Wong in the Bronx. Lee 5-0 with a 0.96. Wong 6-0 with a 3 ERA. How about that matchup?
Something's got to give.
Indians and the Yankees. It'll probably be 11-10 outside. Good matchup in that game in Los Angeles. Mets and the Dodgers, John Maine and Brad Penny. A 1-2. Phillips fouled that one off himself.
See where this one got him? Oh, looked like it got him up on the calf on that left leg. See if he wears a guard next at bat. That's you know, like locking the old barn door after the horses have gotten away, but you definitely don't want to hit another one off of that area, so we'll keep an eye on him to see if he's wearing one of those ankle guards next at bat.
Barry Zito back in the Giants rotation. He'll start tonight. He never did make a relief appearance. He'll go into that start in Pittsburgh 0-6. Another foul. So, Bob, we'll have to keep an eye on the Indians-Yankees and how that plays out. And also on the Brewers and the Marlins. Bush and Badenhop, 6.46 and 7.20 are the respective ERAs. But you never know on a given day.
1-0 shutout.
Bounced up the middle. Terrio will get the short out at second. Griffey forced there, but they bat around. All 9 come to the plate. Votto, Dunn, Bako, and Hairston all with home runs. It's 5-0 Cincinnati. Hey, Comcast cable subscribers, Cubs games are now on Comcast Sportsnet on demand. Comcast digital cable customers, go to digital channel $9.99 and look for Comcast Sportsnet and watch Cubs games on video on demand. Comcast Sportsnet, fans' best friend. I would say the home run ball has been Edinson Volquez and the Reds' best friend. They hit 4 off John Lieber in the second inning. And Mike Fontenot will pinch hit for Lieber, who will not get a plate appearance. A very short start for him. And as we said earlier, he went almost 4 innings in relief his last time out, but as a starter today can only get through 2.
And there's no doubt it wasn't a question of his stuff today. It was a question of his location. Just too many mistakes down the heart of the plate.
The 0-2 pitch to PA drifts outside on a heater.
Yeah, not much you can say as a pitching coach or a manager right there. Just hang with him, get him next time.
Swing and a miss. Strike 3. That's a first strikeout for Volquez. And here's the pinch hitter, Fontenot. And we were just talking to Lou before the game about how he finally felt like he had his bullpen rested and kind of ready to use the way he wants to use it as opposed to who's available.
Right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the good news is with the off day tomorrow, everybody's available today, and you just hope those guys can come in there and stop the bleeding and give the Cubs offense a chance to get back in this ball game.
That was a historic inning. Rob Butcher, the media relations director here in Cincinnati, spent the entire break talking about the club records that were tied. The Reds tied a club record with 4 home runs in an inning. First time they had done that since 1996. And the only other Cubs pitcher in club history to give up 4 home runs in 1 inning, Phil Norton, back in 2000. Two and 2 on Fontenot. The pitch. He took it. It was close. 3 and 2.
You know, and not to pick on Corey Patterson, but how do you think he feels? John Lieber gives up 7 hits, including 4 home runs in 2 innings of work, and Corey Patterson's 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Somebody's got to make the outs.
That's what you always say. Fontenot draws the walk. Yeah, if somebody didn't make the outs, these games would be 19, 20 hours long. Be like cricket.
That's where I came in. I was always a good team guy. Big offensive days, I was willing to step in the background, make the outs so that the other guys could have all the glory.
Get a call from the traveling secretary. BB, we're up 8-1. We don't want to miss our flight.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Up and in on Johnson. Very quickly, Paul Bako, almost before he caught it, was heading out to the mound.
Well, if you're the Cubs offensively, you have to stick with the game plan. You know, try to get Volquez's pitch count up there a little bit. If you can get into that Reds bullpen early enough in the ball game, you definitely have a chance to get back into this one. I mentioned in the last half inning when the Cubs were at the plate that they were being very aggressive. We saw Aramis Ramirez and Kosuke Fukudome both swing at the first pitch, and then Giovanni Soto worked a walk just to force him to throw some pitches in that second inning. Good at bat by Fontenot to draw the walk here in the third.
Volquez leading the way. Tim Lincecum right behind him, and Carlos Zambrano now at 1.80 after the 8 shutout last night. Scott Olson off to a good start. Not a big surprise. Jake Peavy's up there. A 1-1 fouled back, 1-2.
And if you are the Cubs offensively, you don't need to hit 4 home runs in 1 inning to get back in this ball game. You just need to peck away, take your shot where you get it, try to get some base runners on there, put Volquez into the stretch. He's not nearly as effective out of the stretch as he is out of the windup.
Swing and foul tip, strikeout. Like Reed was just over the top of that slider.
It's a very subtle pitch. It doesn't have a lot of sideways movement. It does move down and gets a lot of hitters to swing over the top and hit some easy ground balls.
Scott Olson, the left-hander for Florida, who's from Crystal Lake, Illinois, last night went 8 2/3, gave up just 2 hits, combined with Kevin Gregg on the shutout against Milwaukee. He threw 121 pitches. Kevin Gregg threw 1 and got the save. I think the big thing for Scott Olson, it's never been about his physical abilities or his talent. It's just been harnessing his anger. He's
focusing.
Had a few incidents on and off the field that he's had to deal with, but he's off to a fantastic start. Bounced through the hole on the right side, a base hit. First and second with 2 outs. And on a day like this, if the Reds are going to leave the yard multiple times, this is a day where you'd like to see the Cubs do the same thing. You can get right back in it with 1 big swing.
Ryan Theriot with that inside out swing finds that hole in the right side of the infield. Big bouncer that gets through to Ken Griffey Jr. in right field.
Derek is just 3 for 21 on this trip. The 1-0 pitch off the pitcher, but it goes right to Brandon Phillips. That's bad luck for Derek Lee. As Volquez gets out of the inning, a hit, a walk, 2 stranded, still 5-0. Watch the Cubs take on the Padres Tuesday, May 13th at 7:05. But be sure to arrive early. The first 10,000 fans will get an exclusive limited edition Alfonso Soriano bobblehead doll compliments of Visit Vegas. Double switch with Sean Marshall coming into the game. Ronnie Cedeno moves from second to short. Fontenot stays in and plays second. And the tall left-hander hopefully can give the Cubs 2 or 3 innings today. Maybe more.
Yeah, that's the reason for the double switch. Lou didn't want to have to pinch hit or allow Sean Marshall to hit for himself in that 9 spot in the lineup, so he left Fontenot in the ball game. Marshall now goes into the 2 spot. Lou came out between innings. He wanted to let the home plate umpire know, which you're required to do as a manager, that you're going to make a double switch when you bring that pitcher into the ball game. And Lou couldn't find the home plate umpire, Bill Welke. He's been having some equipment problems with that mask behind home plate, and finally Lou is able to track him down and give him the appropriate changes.
Joey Votto got that big 5-run second started with his 5th home run. The 2-0 pitch missed again, 3-0. And also the runs in the second, the first earned runs the Cubs have given up in this series. All 5 of the Reds tallies on Monday were unearned, and they were shut out last night as Votto takes the walk. Adam Dunn has something in his eye. Taking an extra second. They have turned the lights on. It's gone from I would say partly to mostly sunny to completely overcast. All cloudy. The 0-1 with the runner going. High pitch and a high throw that goes into center. Votto thought about third. He's going to hold it second. That saves Soto an error. Votto with his first stolen base in his second attempt.
Boy, and that one is all on Sean Marshall. Votto had a running start over there at first base. Giovanni Soto tries to rush his throw to second base. He knew that Votto had a big jump, and unfortunately airmails it into center field. Fortunately, Felix Pie, hustling in to back up the play, holds Votto at second base.
The kick and the 1-1 is away. I know I hate to ask you to predict because we don't know what's going to happen, but would you be surprised if Dunn and Griffey are with this team the whole year? Swing and a miss.
You know, that's a question that baseball people have been asked for the past 3 or 4 years. Every year it seems like once the Reds start to struggle early in the season, the rumors start. Ken Griffey Jr. is going to be traded. Adam Dunn's going to be traded. I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of them moved on at some point this season, but by the same token, I wouldn't be surprised if they're here all year either. I think the Reds are in a position right now. Of course, they've had a change in general managers recently. I don't know if they know quite what direction they're going in right now. I think if they continue to struggle the way they have in the early going, it'll make that decision much, much easier for Walt Jocketty to go ahead and pull the trigger on some trades. But you know, if they hang around 500 and feel like they're in a position to maybe make a run at some point in the second half, we may see both those big left-handed hitters stay here in Cincinnati.
Well, the clock is ticking, and a lot of people around here are awaiting the arrival of Jay Bruce, who's basically the best prospect in baseball. And he plays the outfield, but he's a left-handed hitter, and they have a lot of left-handed hitters. So until they make a trade, he'll probably stay in the minor leagues. What was it, Larry Walker? That's the comparison you keep reading about. That's pretty exciting.
Pretty high praise. Minor league player of the year last year. And when you look at the rest of this Reds roster, there's a lot of youth. You know, you're talking about the 2 pitchers, Volquez and Cueto, a couple of young kids. Talking about Joey Votto down there. Jeff Keppinger getting all the playing time at shortstop recently because of the injury to Gonzalez. You add Jay Bruce to that mix. You know, you got a nice young group that can gel together, work together, and maybe a year or two down the road, you've got yourself a pretty competitive ball club. But I don't think the Reds are quite ready to go into complete rebuilding mode just yet.
Well, one of the indications that would tell you that they're not in that mode is they hired Dusty Baker. He didn't come in here to lose for 2 or 3 years. They wanted to develop and win at the same time. And, you know, Bob, it's easy to criticize Dusty for, quote, not liking young players. However, there aren't many managers or former managers with his sort of experience who would want to come in to a situation where you know you're not going to win. Encarnacion takes the walk. Normally, if you get into a rebuilding mode, you hire somebody who's been a longtime manager in the minor leagues, possibly a longtime coach. I mean, let me ask you, if you manage at some point down the road, would you want to go to a situation where you knew that you probably weren't going to win for 3 or 4 years?
Ooh,
that'd be a tough decision, wouldn't it?
It would be a tough decision, tough to take. I mean, if you were up for that kind of a challenge and you had some guarantees that when all those guys got better and became a good big league team, you were still going to be there managing that ball club, then yeah, that would be an interesting proposition. But unfortunately, a lot of organizations in the game nowadays, they change their tack several times. Every couple years we're rebuilding. No. Now we're going to add a couple of free agents. We're going to try to win this year. No, we're going to rebuild again. You have to have a game plan, and you have to have the foresight and the guts to stick to it.
Bako pops out to shallow center. And it brings up the pitcher Volquez with 2 outs.
You know, I've heard that criticism of the Cubs organization over the year. Rather than tear it down, start over, rebuild with some young players, take your lumps for a couple of years, and then reap the benefits 3 or 4 years down the road. It seems like the Cubs, especially for a period of time in the late 80s and early 90s, tried to band-aid things together with free agents, and it didn't always come together as a cohesive unit on the field. You had some big names, some free agent signings that were very lucrative contracts, but it didn't result in wins on the field. It didn't result in World Series championships.
And last year the Cubs were able to do something that not a lot of teams do. They went from worst to first. And again, when Jim Hendry hired Lou Piniella, it was to win now. There was no talk about 2009 or 10 or 11. The other big thing is resources. Big market clubs generally don't rebuild because they have the money to go out and, as you say, maybe band-aid a particular position, pick up a starting pitcher or two. It's a lot different in smaller markets. Lou knows that. He managed here in Cincinnati and then went up to Seattle.
Well, Bob Castellini, the owner here in Cincinnati, has gone on record as saying he's not interested in rebuilding. They want to win. He's a big fan of the Big Red Machine years here in Cincinnati when they were so great for so many years in a row. He wants to get back to that kind of Reds tradition, and you know, you have to incorporate your young players at some point. You've got to make room for the guys like Jay Bruce and Joey Votto, but he wants to win now.
Marshall strikes out the pitcher. He walked 2 in the inning but did not allow a run. We've completed 3. It's been all Reds early on, 5-0. Time now for today's Aflac trivia question. We're hoping John Lieber would still be on the mound. He got knocked out early, but prior to his 20-win campaign in 2001, who was the previous Cubs 20-game winner? Mull that over for a half inning, and we'll get the answer in the bottom of the 4th.
I'm mulling as we speak.
All right. Strike 1, outside edge. on Ramirez. Has the sleeve on his left arm. I don't think the left wrist is 100%. He got hit on Friday. About an inning later, he left and did not play Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. Came back last night, had the game-winning RBI in the first. Rolled up the middle, base hit. And now Kosuke, who's probably been in the biggest slump of his career, and that's 3 games without a hit.
That pitch is down below the knees. Aramis goes down, digs it out, grounds it right back up the middle of the field. Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now for Kosuke is the effect of advanced scouting and more exposure. Teams have seen him against all different kinds of pitching. And if they think they've discovered a weakness, they're going to start going to it with more regularity. Also, I think we've seen Kosuke be a little more aggressive than he was earlier in the season. Of course, at that point, pitchers didn't know him. Opposing teams did not know him. And they were just kind of probing around the strike zone, trying to figure out what he would and would not swing at. And he was very, very patient in the early going.
This will be Hairston. So Kosuke is 0 for 2.
But given his track record over in Japan and knowing what we know about his hand-eye coordination and his eye at the plate, I think it's just a short matter of time until he makes the counter adjustment and starts driving the ball once again.
His only home run came on opening day. Tied it against Milwaukee. Soto with an 8-game hitting streak. He's tied for first in the National League with 13 doubles. Came in with a 6th best batting average. And a very healthy on-base percentage. Gio came in 4th in the league in on-base percentage. Albert Pujols still over 500 at 503. Chipper Jones at 481. Rafael Furcal at 448, and then Soto in the 440s as well. Chase Utley with 13 home runs leading the way. Lance Berkman, Xavier Nady, each with 32 RBIs. Utley already has 100 total bases. Two-two pitch. And he's run it full. 3-2 on Soto. Ramirez at first, 1 out. The Cubs trail 5-0. The Reds hit 4 home runs off John Lieber in the second. Paul Bako will head out. You know, you mentioned that analogy last night about, I guess, passing a semi and you didn't even realize you did it. Did they even do the fireworks on the Hairston home run? I don't even remember.
I don't think they had enough time to reload.
I think you're right. They hit 3 in very quick succession, and 4 hitters. Votto, Dunn, and Bako, and then Hairston later with a 2-run shot. I don't think they did. I would have been aggravated. I was starting to get to that point after the 3rd one as Soto walks.
And you talked about that college student somewhere nearby who was rousted from a sound sleep by the fireworks. He's probably in the bathtub with a mattress over his head right now. He thinks Cincinnati's under attack.
Cedeno batting with 2 on. Strike 1. The thing about Volquez, it's pretty obvious when you see him pitch, even the first time, and we've seen it today. While he's walked 4, I mean, all of his pitches are good pitches. He doesn't just show you stuff. He can throw them all for strikes and can get swings and misses. Like that on the heater at 96.
And not just a heater at 96. If he throws that same pitch middle of the plate, middle of the thighs, it still gets hit, but he elevated that pitch up above the letters. Tough to lay off of, tough to get to.
He struggled with the Rangers in limited action in the major leagues the last few years. He had a 7.20 ERA and a 3-11 record and 20 appearances and 17 starts going into this season. But he's in the National League now, and as you talked about, had a breakthrough season in the minor leagues last year.
And he's another guy who is under the tutelage of Mario Soto. Soto working very closely with Johnny Cueto, teaching him that changeup, trying to refine that pitch. And Volquez also has been learning at the right hand of Mario Soto, one of the best changeup pitchers I ever saw. Had a real good fastball to go along with it, but his changeup was his signature pitch.
I'll tell you, Bob, I've really enjoyed watching Ronnie hit with 2 strikes this year. And he's a guy who had a very big strike zone prior to 2008, but he has battled. He's gotten himself into good hitters counts, and he's had a lot of great plate appearances down 0-2.
He's going to need one right here.
And he strikes out. 2 down in the inning. He really has turned the corner at the plate, even though he did strike out in that at bat.
Well, after a series of 4-seam fastballs in the upper 90s, threw a 2-seamer that time down and in and got Cedeno to swing right over the top of it. And his 2-seamer sits at 92-93 with movement.
Hey, there's your riverboat.
Yep, one of my many riverboats.
Now, was that on purpose? I know normally you don't like to show off. You like to kind of sneak the boat past without us showing it, but just the timing happened to work out today.
Well, the executive board got together and decided to try to capitalize on what little bit of name recognition I have. So BB Riverboats.
The 1-1 pitch. A ball and 2 strikes on PA.
Well, just put yourself in the place of Felix PA right now. You're facing a pitcher that's got a devastating changeup that just falls off the table. Has a fastball in the mid to upper 90s. And you have to protect against all of it.
There's a 1-2.
You know, and I've never been a big fan of comparing players, but it's hard to avoid the comparison between Corey Patterson and Felix PA. Both highly touted prospects, both 5-tool players. And right now they both have the same weaknesses at the plate. Felix PA has been known to chase the high fastball, the breaking ball in the dirt. And Cub fans know that Corey Patterson followed that same pattern.
Nasty pitch. Volquez strikes out Felix for the 2nd time today. He's been in command 5-0. Now the Aflac trivia answer. John Lieber was a Cubs' last 20-game winner in 2001, but what about before him? I think you'll know the name.
1992.
Greg Maddux.
Yes, indeed. Boy, great story about Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine and John Smoltz in the USA Today. Those guys together back in Atlanta for the series of San Diego is playing down there. You see the 20-game winner since 1970. Fergie all over the list.
Strike one on Corey Patterson.
I mean, talking about the big three that pitched side by side for so long down there in Atlanta. And Jake Peavy, who grew up in Alabama, was a big Braves fan, so much to the point he named his dog Maddox. Boy, those guys, just an amazing trio, what they've accomplished in their career. Tom Glavine, until this year, had never spent a day on the disabled list, and Maddox has only missed one start in his entire career. Now, John Smoltz has had some injury problems and some surgeries over the years, but still pitching effectively into his 40s. Well, you just don't see that happen when you have a triumvirate of aces that come up together. I mean, I remember back in the day when you faced the Braves, you just prayed you were going to get their number 4 and 5 starter in a series, because you were pretty sure you were going to lose that other game against one of the 3 aces.
Well, there were times where it was, you know, the 4th or 5th guy was pretty good too. Kevin Millwood.
Yeah. I mean, Glavine said he learned from Maddox. It's not all about just executing your pitches. He taught Tom Glavine how to watch the hitter and try to figure out what it was that the hitter was trying to do against him, and then pitch to that weakness.
One out here in the 4th. Well, there's no doubt Glavine and Maddox are Hall of Famers. I think Smoltz is too. I mean, if you look at what he's done, he's been one of the best postseason pitcher in the history of the game. And he's also been a great closer. He's won the Cy Young. I think all 3 are in.
I think it's a great lesson for all young pitchers out there. I mean, guys, obviously those 3 guys were tremendously gifted athletes and very superior pitchers in their day. But Maddox learned from Glavine that you have to take the ball every 5th day. That's your job. Whether you're at 100% or not, you take the ball, you go out there and you give your team a chance to win. That's what Maddox learned from Glavine. And as I mentioned, Glavine learned from Maddox how to take advantage of hitters. Watch what they're doing in the batter's box. Watch the swings they take on certain pitches, and then make the adjustments that you have to make to get that hitter out. So as good as those guys were, there was still room for improvement and room to learn. I think in a lot of instances we get some pitchers that have been the superstar of the team in high school. They're All-American in college. They think they have all the answers. They get to the big leagues and they bump up against that wall. You can always learn and you can always get better.
Hairston bounces it foul. Greg Maddux is too classy to do it, but it would be interesting at some point to get a list of all the pitchers that he was on the same staff with, who he thought should have been a lot better than they were because of their stuff, but they just never were able to get over that psychological hump. Yeah, you know, 1993, you're trying to avoid Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz. You get 18-game winner Steve Avery.
Ooh, I forgot about him. Yeah. One of the greatest joys of my professional baseball career, and this may sound a little silly, but back in my playing days, former Cubs manager Don Zimmer was one of our coaches on Roger Craig's staff, and sitting in an empty stadium in the dugout at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon before early work and just listening to Don Zimmer tell baseball stories. Priceless. I wish I had a tape recorder and could play that back and listen to all those stories over and over again. And the other thing is sitting with Greg Maddux on a day that he starts, out watching early batting practice from the other team, making mental notes of each guy as he took his batting practice so that if he had to pitch to him later in the ball game, he was prepared.
It has started to rain. So the rain has come a little earlier than the projections. Yeah, Maddux always looks like he's not paying attention, but that's all he does is pay attention.
I specifically remember one game at Dodger Stadium, and they had a lot of young kids. I think Kemp had been called up, and Loney, and some of the youngsters that are in the starting lineup right now for the Dodgers. And Maddux was sitting on the bench trying to figure out Okay, who's who? Who's this guy?
Hairston is out.
And then making mental notes of his swing and where he hit the ball depending on where it was pitched. And then when he went out to pitch that night's ball game, he had a little better idea of guys that he had never faced before.
Well, hidden in that theory of attacking hitters based on what the hitters like to do is the idea of having your own stuff figured out. And that's probably the biggest hurdle. And I'm sure many pitching coaches would love their pitchers to be able to do that, but they're more worried about getting the pitcher right. And because Maddox throws so much, has always had his mechanics in line, that gives him a leg up on everybody else.
I don't recall Greg Maddux or Tom Glavine ever mentioning their mechanics. That was a given. They knew what they had to do to effectively get their arm into a position to throw the pitch they needed to throw. You never heard them talk about their mechanics. It was always about execution.
The 1-1 to Griffey, pulled way foul right at the end of the Reds dugout. And was that Dusty?
That
I think
was Dusty.
Dusty
Yeah.
might have gotten dusted. On the backside.
Dusty was a left fielder. He's not used to playing that close to the action. He gets out of his seat for 1 minute. Junior finds him.
PA coming in, and he has it. That's the first 1-2-3 inning for the Cubs pitchers. Raining. It's not raining hard, but we go to the fifth. It's 5-0 Reds. Raining a little bit harder as we start the fifth. Five to nothing. The Reds got all their runs off John Lieber on 4 home runs in the second. Well, if this one's going to get washed out, the Cubs want it to be before they make the third out here in the fifth.
Yeah, I've talked about it many times in the past. You can't really change your game plan depending on the weather, but in this particular instance, it would serve the Cubs well to put together some very patient at bats here in the top half of the fifth.
Volquez leading the league in ERA, has not given up a run through 4. Well, great to see your wife Joan. I know a lot of family in the area here at the ballpark today. And Keith Schramm, who works the press box door at Wrigley Field, one of our favorites. He made the trip down to Cincinnati.
Keith is a great student of the game of baseball. He puzzles me most days asking questions as Fontenot looks at a called strike 3.
Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work. And by the Toyota Tundra. Visit whytundra.com to find out why the Toyota Tundra is a great way to keep moving forward.
You picked a great word, puzzles. Keith actually creates crossword puzzles in his downtime.
Wow. Well, Keith was a guy that asked me one day last year, when they play an exaggerated shift like the Cubs do for Adam Dunn and Ken Griffey Jr., why not leave the shortstop as the only defender on the left side of the infield instead of the third baseman? The shortstop obviously has much better range. Scoot the third baseman up the middle of the field and let the shortstop stay in his position on the left side. And I think there's something to be said for that.
I have asked Perry Hill when I was in Florida that very question. I don't remember the answer. But it is a very good question.
Yeah, the point is, Keith is always thinking outside the box.
4 straight strikeouts for Volquez. 6 on the afternoon. You know what? We can ask Alan Trammell that question.
I think probably the biggest concern would be on a double play ball. I mean, it's such an odd play anyway when you're playing that exaggerated shift, but you would probably prefer the shortstop to be the guy handling the ball around second base rather than your third baseman.
I think the other reason too is if you're putting on a pull shift, your shortstop theoretically being your best defensive player, your most athletic, or the guy with the most range, you might as well put him on the pull side of the field. If you put him over on the left side, the idea is you're taking him out of the play. Sean Marshall with a base hit in the right. Cubs are looking for anything positive today. And the pitcher comes through with, let's see, his 9th career hit.
The Reds needed to be playing a pull shift on Sean Marshall. He's the first guy to really get that bat head out in front of home plate and pull the ball hard against Volquez today.
That hit the 3rd for the Cubs. Terrio, Ramirez, and now Marshall. Sean not being held at first base. Breaking ball strike. The kick and the 1-1 fouled away to the right. Well, the starting rotation a bit fluid with Rich Hill going to AAA. Jason Marquis having a start skipped. His next outing will come on Monday against the Padres. John Lieber looked at his role in the rotation as temporary. He said from the get-go he wants Rich Hill back here as quickly as possible. Really believes it. Rich will help this club as Derek Lee singles into left, but with Lieber struggling today, depending on how things go with Sean Marshall, it's possible Lou could give Marshall a spot start. Let's check in on the Cubs minor league report. Rich Hill last night in his Iowa debut for 2008 gave up some hits, but the key there is he walked only 1 in his 5 innings. He actually took the loss. Scott Air gave up a home run, and he could be ready very soon to come back. Jose Seda, we saw him a bit in spring training with 6 strong innings, gave up a run in a no decision for High A Daytona. Two on for Ramirez. It's just drizzling at the moment. Here's the pitch. 2 balls, no strikes. Well, if the Cubs can get something here, they should thank their pitcher, Sean Marshall. 2 straight strikeouts to start the inning, and then Marshall smacked a single to right. Derek Lee followed up with a base hit, and now it's the cleanup man at the plate. Does he throw anything straight?
Occasionally that 4-seam fastball at 96, 97 is straight when he tries to elevate it in the zone, but everything has a little movement one direction or the other. He has what scouts call a live arm.
The delivery, big cut. 2-2.
Boy, and speaking of scouts, a lot of them hovering around this series here this week. Not sure if they're picking the bones of the Reds, anticipating that they may make some moves if they continue to fall out of the race here. But a lot of major league scouts in attendance at this series.
A 2-2 swing and a miss. All 3 outs in this inning. Strikeouts for Volquez. Still 5-0. It's now official, middle of the 5th.
From the Comcast Sportsnet studios, it's a GMC Sports Update.
Hi, everyone. Gail Fisher here in the studio. It's a baseball doubleheader today on Comcast Sportsnet. White Sox outfielder Nick Swisher will join the Chicago Tribune Live panel tonight at 5:30. Then at 7, it's the Sox and Twins. Mark Burley gets the start for the Southsiders. Levon Hernandez from Minnesota. That's all for now. Let's send it back to Cincinnati with Len and Bob.
Gail, it's 5-0. All the runs coming on 4 Cincinnati home runs in the bottom of the 2nd inning off John Lieber. John had pitched so well in relief, back in a more familiar role, but as you said, the location was just not there today.
Yeah, in this Reds ball club, I mean, they're going to struggle from time to time this year, but when you make mistakes against some of the guys they have in the middle of this lineup, they can do some damage, and they did it in that inning. Boy, that was a sight to behold.
Sean Marshall back out there for his 3rd inning. He has walked 2, but has not given up a hit. And he'll go after Phillips, Votto, and Dunn. Brandon Phillips deep to left. It's hooking. It's off the netting there. That's a home run. Just to the right of the foul pole, and it's now 6-0. More fireworks here in Cincinnati. Home runs today from Votto, Dunn, Bako, Hairston, and now Phillips. Ball was crushed.
Oh, no doubt about it. Leaning all over that first pitch. Jerks it right down the 3rd base line, hit about halfway up the foul pole and left.
That's his 6th.
Well, we were just talking between innings that Aramis Ramirez at bat there to end the 5th inning with a couple of runners on base. If he would happen to knock one out of there in that situation, it's a completely different ball game. Not putting it all on Aramis, but the Cubs just haven't been able to get any continuity in their offense today.
Felix Pie goes back on this deep drive, and that is out. Votto with 2 home runs. He has killed the Cubs. They have gone back-to-back twice today. Votto and Dunn in the 2nd. Phillips and Votto leading off the 5th. The only thing I wondered about this one, did he hit it too high? But he got all of it.
Yeah, he hit it to the deep part of the ballpark out there in front of the Reds bullpen. Man, make it stop.
First time in his career, Bob, he's hit 2 in 1 game.
I was just going to say it might be time to revisit the scouting report on Joey Votto or execute better pitches. He's had some good pitches to hit in this game, but when a guy has so much success against your team, yeah, you might have to maybe take a second look at how you're pitching him.
Four home runs against the Cubs already here in 2008. 4 of his 6. And now has 9 RBIs in his 6th game against the Cubs. He has 10 career home runs. Half have been against the Chicago Cubs. Right-hander Sean Gallagher is up. Three-2 pitch to Dunn, and we'll do it again. Looking at the career numbers here, Votto has 12 hits against the Cubs, 4 doubles, and 5 home runs included. So he has hit for a lot of power. Inside, and Dunn walks. And Lou Piniella headed toward the mound. Six home runs for the Reds. Sean Gallagher coming in. The Heineken call to the pen. We'll be back to Cincinnati in a moment. That is Sean Gallagher. If you remember him from last year, he was a little heavier. He wasn't really overweight, but he lost like 30 pounds in the offseason. Came into camp in great shape. And he makes his second major league appearance here in 2008. Last time he was up last year, he said he was just kind of dipping his toes in the pool at that point. And most guys will tell you that. That's a whirlwind. Your head hurts after a while. Trying to figure out what it's like to be in the major leagues. And you hope that experience has paid off for Gallagher. And he's going to make the catch. Normally an infielder will take it, but it wasn't hit high enough.
Now, sometimes all it takes is a taste of the major leagues to rededicate an athlete to get himself in the best possible condition and give himself the best opportunity to make a career up here at the major league level.
He made 8 relief appearances in 07 and had an 8.59 earned run average. I can't ask you about that because when you came up you stayed, but that doesn't happen to everybody.
I don't know so much if it's the taste of the major leagues or the taste of going back to the minor leagues that causes a guy to rededicate himself.
It seems like every team has one guy every year who makes 3 or 4 trips back and forth. And a lot of times it's a pitcher.
And I know from experience, in a lot of ways, it's a very desirable situation to have a lot of young pitchers with options left sitting at your AAA level so that you can bring them up and send them back down depending on your opponent in a given series, what your needs are at the major league level. You just flip one in, flip the other out. And of course, the time that they spend in the big leagues, they enjoy, and hopefully they contribute to help the team win ball games. But if they happen to bump up against the wall, we'll see in a couple weeks. Let's try the next one.
And many times the decision to bring a guy up or to send a guy down has more to do with what options are available, when the guy last pitched. Sometimes you want to go get a starter, but oh well, he pitched last night. Whose day is it tomorrow? All right, bring him up. And guys get opportunities even though they might have been the second or third choice, but if they make the most of it, you can make a major league career out of it. I just love the Jamie Carroll story. We've told it many times, but he's from Indiana and he was in the minor league system of the Expos. It was in September. They needed an infielder. He was close by. They were going to play at Wrigley Field, and Jamie Carroll, I think, has been in the major leagues ever since. And he probably never would have gotten his chance had he not lived in the Midwest. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that he was close. Rain coming down a bit harder, and this will be a bloop single for Paul Bako. Two on with one out.
And raining a little harder this time. We've been trying to keep one eye on the weather radar, and there was a yellow blob, which I assume is a lot of rain moving in this direction. I don't know if this is the beginning of it or whether this is just another one of those short-lived storms.
Don't you have one of those barometric pressure readouts on your watch?
I actually have one in my left knee.
And what is it telling you?
Oh, it tells me it's going to rain for a while. Yeah, I always thought that was an old wives' tale until I had multiple knee surgeries, and now I believe every bit of it. You can usually tell when the weather's going to change.
Bunted to Derek Lee, and his only play will be first base. Fontenot covering. Even if Derek wanted to throw to third or to second, I think the wetness of the ball would have precluded it. He took a quick look at it before firing it to Fontenot, and it's really coming down now.
Punches that ball to the right side. You see it slipped out of Derek's hand just momentarily right there, but able to recover in time to get the out at first base, no problem.
Patterson late on that fastball, riding at 95. Gallagher was a 12th round pick back in 2004. He was born in Boston, but went to high school in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The 0-2 inside. We came prepared. Fontenot, diving stop, nice play, saved probably 2 runs. Unfortunately, the Cubs are down big. Could have been worse in the inning. They did get 2 on the home runs. 7-0 Reds. Tonight, catch the latest edition of Chicago Tribune Live here on Comcast Sportsnet. David Kaplan, Tribune writer, sports stars and celebrities discuss the day's hottest sports topics and set the table for the night ahead. Don't miss Chicago Tribune Live tonight at 5:30 right here on Comcast Sportsnet. The thing about the rain is that it hasn't been consistent. It has rained hard, then it is lessened, then it'll pick up a little bit, and then it decreased. Now it's starting to rain hard again. They put some diamond dry around home plate on the pitcher's mound.
And also
we'll
a new rosin bag out on the mound for Volquez and Sean Gallagher, as that rosin bag lays on the back of that pitcher's mound during the inning and between innings and soaks up all that rain. The bat boy ran out there and swapped out for a brand new rosin bag.
Tell you, I'm having trouble identifying the pitches of Volquez just based on the hitter's reactions. They're reacting to his fastball like it's a slider.
Yeah, we've seen some that have had a little cut on them. The ones that he throws at 91, 92, 93 miles an hour seem to cut into the left-handed hitters. At times he sinks the ball away from a lefty, and at times he uses that four-seamer up high in the zone. That's the easy one to identify at 96.
Patterson underneath this high drive by Kosuke.
Got a good this date in baseball history for you, Len.
Let's have it.
Vaguely related to baseball. It happened right here at this ballpark in 2003. They just had it between innings. They call it the Kiss Cam. They show 2 fans sitting side by side in the stands, usually a couple, a married couple or a boyfriend, girlfriend. Occasionally they'll show 2 Cubs sitting on the bench. Everybody gets a big laugh out of it. And the idea is you give your sweetie a big kiss and everybody applauds. Well, there was a man at the ballpark that was wanted on multiple drug and payroll violation charges, and when they showed him on the kiss cam, his payroll officer was at the ballpark and saw his picture. He was arrested and I would assume is currently serving time right here at this ballpark.
Justice was served.
Yes, indeed.
Oh. That's pretty good. And you're right, it did have a baseball connection, swing and a miss. That's 8 for Volquez.
Oh, and he's had strikeouts on the changeup, on the high fastball, an occasional slider low and away from a right-handed hitter. He's commanded all of his pitches pretty much this entire ball game.
So if there's a moral to the story, if you're wanted, if you're a felon, just know if you're at the ballpark, you might be on the big jumbotron.
Yeah, no PDA, no public displays of affection. Get you in trouble.
Pulled foul by Ronnie. Volquez 2 strikeouts away from his career high of 10. He struck out 10 Giants in a win at San Francisco on April 27th.
Well, the one thing you're kind of hoping for if you're the Cubs is as good as Volquez has been, he doesn't usually work too deep into the ball game. He's gone 7 innings twice, 6 innings once, but every other time he's pitched 5, 5, or 5 1/3. But fully in command here in the 6th.
A little slip there, but he was able to recover and get the 3rd out. Midway in the 6th, all Reds, 7-0. The Cubs play the Padres on Wednesday, May 14th at 7:05. The first 20,000 fans will get a scratch and win card. 500 random winners will receive an autographed Derek Lee baseball compliments of Gatorade. Fans are encouraged to hold on to their cards for second chance drawings throughout the game because, as Bob says, everybody deserves a second chance. For complete rules, visit Cubs.com. This has been a weird weather day. All of a sudden the skies have brightened, but it continues to rain. At some point, no matter how lightly it is raining, it's going to have to stop because this field will end up taking on a lot of water. The infield looks okay for the time being.
Usually the determining factor is the pitcher's ability to keep his feet underneath him out there on the mound and continue to throw the ball in and around the strike zone. If you start to see some wild pitches flying to the backstop, you see the pitcher slipping and sliding out there on the mound, or you see the batter slipping and sliding trying to get out of the box, that's usually when the umpires have to consider putting a halt to play and covering up the field and letting the rain stop completely. But so far we continue to play.
Hairston with his only start of the series, and he has a couple of hits including a home run. He'll be retired here by Fukudome. He's now 2 for 4. And here comes Griffey. Griffey will head to Orlando tomorrow for the funeral of his best friend Frank King, who passed away from cancer on Monday at age 38. That's just tragic. And Junior was out of the original lineup, but he told Dusty Baker he wanted to play for his friend. (2-0). Unless the Cubs make a late comeback, they're looking at a 2-4 road trip. haven't won a series in a while, as that'll go 3-1. The last series the Cubs won was at the tail end of that terrific homestand when they swept the Mets in a 2-game series on April 21st and 22nd. They then split 2 with Colorado, lost 2 of 3 at Washington, lost 2 of 3 at home against Milwaukee, dropped 2 of 3 in St. Louis, and they're in danger of doing the same here in Cincinnati. And it doesn't get any easier, to say the very least. The team with the best record in baseball, the Arizona Diamondbacks, will come in Friday.
I mean, you could almost understand the Cardinals series. They played us very tough down there in St. Louis, and their record at home going into play tonight, 14-7, so they're very good in their own ballpark. But the Reds were coming off a 5-game losing streak. They're playing under 500 at home, and as you said, the Cubs in danger of dropping 2 out of 3 of this series.
They'll face Dan Herron, rookie right-hander Max Scherzer, and a guy who's ticketed for the Hall of Fame, Randy Johnson, who won last night. Lilly, Dempster, and Zambrano Friday through Sunday for the Cubs. Inside out swing, and Phillips goes the other way, and it's a single. Now the Danley's Garage World Cubs upcoming schedule. We'll be back on Comcast Sportsnet when the Padres come in Monday night.
Phillips barely made it down to first base after that inside out swing resulted in a base hit down the right field line. I'm not sure if he slipped coming out of the batter's box or whether he aggravated an existing injury, but trainer out to have a quick word with him. He's going to stay in the ball game. Yeah, no sign of a slip coming out of the batter's box, but a grimace right there. And Phillips really breaks it down as he gets to first base.
Now Chris Young started last night for the Padres, so I don't know if he'll pitch in that 4-game series at Wrigley Field, but it'll be, whenever he does face the Cubs, his first start against them since that bench clearing brawl. Joey Votto has done it again. Can you believe this? 3 home runs for Votto. And it's 9-0. Cubs can't get him out.
Well, you know, Len, we were talking last night about the anniversary of the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game against the Houston Astros, and how it's fun to watch an athlete when they get into one of those zones where the game seems to slow down for them. Well, Joey Votto is in one of those zones today. Goodness gracious.
And they want a curtain call. I think Alex Gonzalez just did the curtain call for Votto. And now Votto comes out. Well, he's had 2 5 RBI games against the Cubs. Today he's knocked in 4 and has hit 3 home runs. Wow. And that's the 7th the Reds have hit. It's a pretty long list of Reds who have hit 3 in a game. The last was Aaron Boone in 2003.
Well, once again, on a tee down the middle of the plate, just above the knees, right where Votto wanted it, goes to the opposite field with authority right over the 379 mark.
We should point out Adam Dunn has been Mr. 3 true outcome guy again today. A home run, a strikeout, and 2 walks. All he's needed was a pitcher and the catcher against him. Fouled away by Encarnacion.
A lot of the fans who were seeking shelter underneath the overhang are now making their way back to the seats as the rain has pretty much stopped once again. The skies continue to lighten up.
Ramirez can't get it. That's a base hit. The Reds are baseball's oldest pro franchise. Now, all their records don't go back to 1869, I don't believe, but they're only 2 home runs away from their club record all time. They hit 9 in a game in 1999. They hit 8 against the Milwaukee Braves in 1956. They also hit 7 against the Cubs in 1957 on June 1st of that year. They joined the National League in 1890. They have more home runs than singles. Six singles, 7 home runs.
This is just one of those rare days for the Reds where they've gotten good pitches to hit and they haven't missed them.
Bako strikes out. The inning is over. Joey Votto having a career day with 3 home runs. It's now 9-0. After the game, stick around for Lowe's Cubs post-game live. Get highlights of all the action and analysis from Dan Plesac. Don't miss Lowe's Cubs post-game live immediately following our broadcast right here on Comcast Sportsnet, fans' best friend. Ryan Friel comes in. We saw Brandon Phillips might have tweaked something as he went down to first base, and he's out. Friel is in. A little surprised Volquez is back out there for the 7th. He's thrown 94 pitches. He has a 9-0 lead, but he's going to start the 7th. He's only 24.
I think all things considered too, we talked about the condition of the playing field and the mound. The grounds crew was out working on it once again between innings. The footing is not what it was at the beginning of this ball game. And it's not like Volquez needs to work on anything. He's proven to the Cubs and to everybody in attendance here today that all of his stuff is working just fine.
Felix PA takes ball 1 outside. You look at his starts, and the Reds have either scored a ton or none. His wins 8-2, 9-2, 8-1, 10-1. His 2 losses 1-0, 2-0. It's been all or nothing. And he leads 9-0 today. Called strike. Inner third, 1-2 on PA. Volquez's earned run average has dipped to 1.09 through 6. Started at 127, which was leading the league. And he just struck out Felix PA for number 9 on the afternoon. Tough day for Felix. He has struck out all 3 times.
Well, that was that changeup got Felix well out in front there. Still going through those major league growing pains is Felix PA. Boy, against the better pitchers, he really struggles to make contact.
Well, the only good news, it has stopped raining.
And for the time being, it stopped raining home runs. Man, I haven't seen anything like that in a long time.
The only thing I can think of was a couple of years ago, and it's, I'm sure, a memory that Dusty Baker's tried to erase. The Cubs had a couple games at home. I think Atlanta, maybe Detroit. They gave up like 6 or 8 home runs.
Yeah, those are the ones you definitely want to forget.
If not for the walks, Volquez could be thinking about going the distance. But he's over 100 pitches and he's in the 7th. The strikeouts will certainly elevate that pitch tally as well. Off date tomorrow, and the Cubs' longest homestand of the season. 10 games will start on Friday. Fontenot walks for the 2nd time. When you lose a heartbreaker, you say to yourself, you know, you could take it if you lose 9-0. A lot better than the heartbreaker in the 9th. But you know what? This isn't very fun either.
No. And they all count as an L in the standings. That's the thing. I never bought into that theory that it's easier to get stormtrooped 9-0 than it is to take a 1-0 loss late in a ball game. They're all losses and they all hurt. This one a little more embarrassing than others, but yeah, the bottom line is it's one ball game. You forget about it, take your off day, get some rest and relaxation, enjoy your family, get some treatments on your injuries, and come back Friday ready to play again.
Ground ball pulled to Encarnacion. They only get 1 out. That's at 2nd base.
I'll tell you, Felix PA is not alone today. He has struck out 3 times, but we haven't seen very many good swings from any of the Cubs offensively today. Only a couple balls have been hit hard.
You said it. Sean Marshall probably made the best contact. Darrell Ward bats for Gallagher. Every Cubs pitcher has given up at least 1 home run. Lieber allowed 4, Marshall 2, Gallagher 1. The pitch, outside corner strike.
1-2.
Well, Darrell Ward just doesn't look comfortable up there at the plate. Stretching out those legs after that awkward swing and miss at a changeup. He's been bothered by some tender hamstrings. Just can't seem to get any relief. Another defensive swing, just trying to stay alive and hope that Volquez will make some kind of mistake where you can get the bat on it.
Another 1-2 and another foul.
And Volquez obviously has great stuff and is on top of his game today, but he's got just the right split between his pitches today. His fastball is quick enough that the Cubs hitters are always just a hair behind it. When he throws that changeup, it's that perfect speed where they're just out in front of it. Just not squaring anything up today.
This next pitch will be number 112 on the day. That'll tie his season high. Here it is. And in fact, he has now tied his career high 112.
Yeah, normally if you see a starter extended this deep into a ball game with a big lead like this, you would assume that the bullpen is beat up and has thrown a lot of innings lately. But with the exception of the Johnny Cueto start against St. Louis back on the 29th of April, the Red starters have been getting into the 7th inning with regularity. Cueto got knocked out in the 2nd inning of that start against the Cardinals, but every other start other than that has been 6 or 7 innings. So their bullpen is fairly well rested. Doesn't necessarily mean that Dusty has a lot of confidence in him, but it's not a question of overwork.
And they just got up in the bullpen, and now with Darrell Ward walking, I think the Reds are going to try to buy some time here for the bullpen.
Well, his body language has been a lot different on the mound in this inning. Shaking his head, upset with some of the pitches he's making, taking more time between pitches. You know, I say it all the time that pitchers are natural born liars. If you go out to the mound and ask them how they feel, they always tell you they're okay, they can continue to pitch. But they'll tell you in other ways. Their body language, the time they take between pitches, just the way they react out there on the mound to certain things. And it's pretty evident that Volquez is near the end, if not past the end.
You talk about pitch counts a lot, and a lot of pitching coaches and managers talk about it and say that the number itself isn't necessarily the best indication. A lot of times 95 pitches in stressful situations can feel like a lot more than 120. Now, having said that, 120 is kind of that area where you don't want to get a guy up there too often, especially a 24-year-old with the stuff Volquez has. So you have to think he's a few pitches away from coming out. Fouled back by Derek Lee.
Well, and you always have to look big picture. You try to win a game every day, and you do whatever you have to do to win that ball game. But you also have to look at the big picture. I mean, Volquez has pitched a tremendous ball game today. You'd hate to see it slip away with a 3-run home run by Derek Lee, followed by a solo shot by Aramis Ramirez, and now all of a sudden the young man goes home feeling poorly about what he did in the ball game.
Well, we keep saying it. The Cubs one swing from just getting some life. They're down 9. Well, with the balls that have been flying out of here, you just never know.
Well, and certainly from start to start, that's something that pitching coaches and managers take into consideration. How many pitches did he throw in his last start? Can we extend him a little bit more today? I'm sure his next start after this one, there'll be much more careful with the pitch count than they have been today with Volquez.
And he's thrown over 20 pitches in this inning. This is his career high, 117. A 1-2 pitch, and he struck out Derek Lee. That'll probably be the last pitch. Volquez throws 118. He's given up just 4 hits on the day, and the Reds lead 9-0. This year, when you can't be at home to watch the Cubs, check out MLB.tv. You can log on to the internet and watch every out-of-market Cubs game of the season live online. For more details, visit Cubs.com, where baseball is always on. We're in the last of the 7th. It's 9-zip Cincinnati. Bob Howry will make his 16th appearance. Darrell Ward's going to stay in and play first base. So Derek Lee is done. Mark DeRosa in at the hot corner for Ramirez as well.
Well, score notwithstanding, you'd like to see a strong outing here from Bob Howry today. He's one of the guys in the bullpen that has been inconsistent at best in the early going this season, and Lou has reiterated many times how important it is to get Bob Howry going along with Carlos Marmol at the tail end of the games.
Pinch hitter Scott Hatteberg for Volquez, who tied his career high with his final strikeout, 10. It's one of the best performances we've seen against the Cubs in quite some time.
For a guy to walk 6 batters in 7 innings and nary a one of them came close to scoring, that's speaks to the stuff he had in the other at bats other than the base on balls.
Well, he was terrific today, no question about it. How about Gavin Floyd? Looks like he's going to pitch a no-hitter at some point. He keeps getting close. Went into the 9th last night. Fontenot throws out Hatteberg. Joe Mauer doubled with 1 out. The White Sox won 7-1. Cardinals won again last night. Braden Looper went into the 9th. It was his longest career outing. Also had 2 hits. Blake DeWitt with an inside the park home run for the Dodgers. 5-4, they beat the Mets late last night. Dodgers are hanging around in the West. They're only 3 out. They've won 9 of their last 10.
The difference in that Western Division is the way the Diamondbacks have taken care of business within the division. 17-5 against the West, whereas the Dodgers 11-9 going into play tonight.
I mentioned Chris Young, and I'm just not sure, based on the days, I don't think the Cubs will face him, but they're probably going to face Peavy and Maddox in that series next week. Foul tip strike, 1 and 2 on Corey Patterson. Howry coming back, and it's inside on a fastball. So come on out to Wrigley Field. The Cubs are going to face Randy Johnson and Greg Maddux on this next homestand.
And at this stage of their respective careers, you're not quite sure what you're going to get on a daily basis, but the bottom line is both those guys are surefire first ballot Hall of Famers. So you want to take the opportunity to come out and watch two of the best that ever towed the slab.
Maddox scheduled to start next on Saturday, so it looks like he'll pitch the final game of that set on Thursday. That'll be a week from tomorrow. That's the only matinee of that series. 3 night games Monday through Wednesday. The 2-2 pitch. Pulled into right for a base hit. The first hit for Corey today. He's on with 1 out. Didn't think I'd be talking about the pitching rotation for the other team 2 series from now, but it's been that kind of day here in Cincinnati. 9-0 Reds.
If there was something good to talk about here at Great American Ballpark as far as the guys in the blue shirts go, we'd be talking about it. But this has been the Edinson Volquez show here in Cincinnati today. Just an outstanding performance by the young right-hander.
And Joey Votto is going to get another chance. He already has 3 home runs. You have Hairston followed by Griffey, then Friel, then Votto. Way up in the air, and there's that foul ball you were talking about as Hairston pulled one into the upper deck behind the Cubs dugout.
You know, I've talked about it with Todd Helton in the past. If you had the guts to do it, Jerry Hairston is another guy that fits this description. Throw him 2 changeups off the plate inside, and he'll pull both of them over the roof of the stadium in foul territory on the third base side, then go to work and get him out.
Well, easier said than done. Hairston with a 2-run homer in the second. One of his 2 hits on the day. The next pitch, a foul the other way, 1-2. How's Mr. Redlegs doing? Took a spill about a half hour before the first pitch.
Lost his head. I'm not sure how that head is attached. I'm sure there's some kind of a chin strap or some kind of an apparatus that that the gentleman inside that suit would wear to keep the head from falling off as he's dancing around between innings and doing his thing. And when that head came off, he grabbed his chin right away. He may have gotten some nasty leather burns when his head fell off. But they always have, what's the other one called? Gapper? Gapper to fill in for Mr. Redlegs.
I don't think they're speaking right now after what happened. Gapper was driving. Now, fortunately, Mr. Redlegs is okay.
Well, you know, the mascots are all about entertainment, and I got to say, I had a pretty good belly laugh watching his head rolling around out there on the warning track. Sure, some of the fans out there in the left field bleachers that had a real up close and personal look at it thought it was pretty funny. Good entertainment. He may have to incorporate that as part of his daily routine out here.
Two-two pitch. Count holding. 14 hits. Half of them have left the yard for the Reds. Just 4 hits for the Cubs. Three and two.
Better ground ball right at somebody. Come on now.
Well, the Cubs have yet to turn a double play. They haven't gotten a lot of ground balls. This will be Fontenot. So 2 outs, and with the Cubs being shut out, the Nissan drive happened before the game. Gapper was going a little too fast. And again, we can only laugh because Mr. Redlegs is okay, but there was a nasty spill.
Thank goodness he had that helmet on underneath. He's mad too. Wait till I get a hold of Gapper.
Smiling now.
Yeah, he feels fine now. Give me that bat. Ken Griffey Jr. still 3 home runs away from 600 in his career. And we were talking earlier about the possibility of Griffey or Dunn or perhaps others on this Reds ball club getting dealt. I don't think Griffey's going anywhere until he gets number 600. That'll be quite a celebration, especially if it happens here in Cincinnati.
Is everything all right? Okay. You don't, a happy ending to the story.
You don't know what was being said there, actually.
Right.
I'm going to give you a big hug just so the fans think I still like you, but wait till I get you in the tunnel.
Now the facial expression might not be telling the truth. There's a base hit for Griffey. Even the bloopers are falling in for the Reds. We just showed you a blooper with the mascots, and there was another one. First at bat for Ryan Friel. He came in to play second for Phillips in the top of the inning.
In case you're wondering what that noise is you hear occasionally, we have field mics down there so we can hear the crack of the bat and some of the action that's going on the field. And the guys in the on-deck circle, when they drop that weighted bat into the on-deck circle, makes all kinds of racket. Sometimes you'll hear them bang the handle of the bat on the ground to get the donut off. Other times they just drop that big red weighted bat on the ground. And our field mics are very close to that location, so you get to hear exactly what it sounds like in that on-deck circle.
First and third with 2 outs. All the Reds runs have scored on a home run. They've scored 9 runs on 7 home runs. 5 solos. Ground ball. It's DeRosa moving to his left. The out recorded at second. The 7th inning is over. We'll go to the 8th. It's 9-0 Reds.
It's time now for our Shop Aquos detail of the game. Look at the location on the first 3 home run pitches in the ball game today. Middle of the plate, middle of the thighs. That was the first one for Joey Votto in the ball game. Adam Dunn, middle of the plate, middle of the thighs. He rides it out of here. And then to finish the trifecta, Paul Bako. This ball is actually a little bit inside, but right where Bako was looking for it. 3 of 7 home runs that the Reds have slugged in the ball game today.
Former Cub David Weathers now pitching, and he'll work with Javier Valentin, who's now catching. Mark DeRosa with his first at bat. He came in to play third in the 7th. After him, Fukudome, and then looks like Henry Blanco is going to bat for Soto. Oh, there was a story in the Cincinnati Enquirer on Tuesday about some comments that broadcaster Jeff Brantley had made on the radio recently. Apparently there was a reference to how hard some guys were trying on this Reds team. Weathers was on the disabled list. He just came off to start the series. He heard the comments. I guess they're friends. They've known each other a long time, but he heard it and didn't like it. That'll be Votto to take it unassisted.
That's very dangerous territory when you start questioning players' motivation and their willingness to go out and play hard. I mean, today's is a perfect example. Watching the Cubs today, I'm sure there are fans out there saying, boy, they look flat. They look flat. Well, when you're not getting runners on base and you're not scoring runs, of course you look flat. But it's not due to a lack of effort. It's just the fact that the other guy was a little better today.
And the other night, when talking about the Cubs' defensive woes, Lou went out of his way to say, I know this team's trying. But he said, it's a bottom line thing for me. We're not playing well. We're not winning.
And it's a completely different story when the manager or a coach or a teammate that's sitting in that dugout says, we're not putting in a good enough effort. But it's a completely different story when somebody's sitting far removed. They're not down there on the field of play seeing what's going on a daily basis to make that same comment.
A ball and 2 strikes on Kosuke.
I think it's just a natural reaction. Fans and we as broadcasters, we want our guys to do good. We want to see them go out there and swing the bats and have fun and score runs and rack up numbers. And the reality of the game of baseball is it's not going to happen every day. But on those days when you're not swinging the bats well, you're not making the plays defensively, your pitchers aren't executing their pitches, to just immediately point at a lack of effort, I think, is misguided. It happens.
Toward the hole, backhanded play, and the throw by Hairston is late. Kosuke was his first hit in 4 games.
Ball down low and away. He stays right on top of it. Yeah, hopefully that's a good sign for Kosuke. He's made a lot of outs on pop-ups lately. Balls that he's gotten under and lifted high in the air to the left side of the infield or shallow left field. That time you could really see him staying on top of that ball, driving it down to the ground towards that hole between third and short.
So that was his first hit since the middle game of the Cardinals series when he went 3 for 5. Henry batting for Soto, so Gio's 8-game hitting streak is over. He went 0 for 1 with 2 walks and a strikeout. Weathers with a 1-1, sinker too low. Been a rainy afternoon. It hasn't been a lot of fun for the Cub fans in attendance. Hit well to left. Adam Dunn makes a catch on the warning track.
Thought Henry had a chance for extra bases there. If Adam Dunn wasn't 8 feet tall, that ball probably gets over his head off the wall for extra bases, but Dunn able to make up just enough ground to catch that ball.
He was telling Corey Patterson he had both feet in, but I think the right foot was actually on the warning track. I guess it depends, college rules or
Absolutely.
the NFL.
And I don't think any of the officials were in a position to say whether he got both feet down in bounds.
I'm not a huge NFL fan, but I do follow it a little bit. I think one of the rules changes was the force out rule might have been changed for the upcoming season. Votto over near the tarp, and it's out of play. They are underway in Los Angeles. The Dodgers batting in the bottom of the first, and the Mets did not score in the top of the inning.
You were talking about it earlier, Len. Ronnie Cedeno's 2-strike approach at the plate this year. Occasionally he'll take some funny looking swings, and on occasion he's going to swing and miss at those 2-strike pitches, but that's been a huge improvement for him. His ability to continue the at bat, to stay in that batter's box, foul off the tough pitches, and give that opposing pitcher an opportunity to make a mistake.
In his one full season, he played 151 games in 2006. He struck out 109 times, walked just 17 times. Got it all covered there. We'll see Mark Grace, part of the Arizona broadcast team. He'll be in this coming weekend. Ronnie with 11 strikeouts. He has walked 7 times here in the early going, just over 50 at bats. Outside, full count, 3-2. Fukudome runs, and he'll have to head back to first.
Make it a great at bat, Ronnie. Good battle up there. Was in the hole 0-2. Has managed to run the count to full. Fouled off another tough pitch.
Kosuke on the move again. Fly ball right field. Easy play for Griffey. And we'll head to the bottom of the 8th. Joey Votto will lead it off for the Reds, already with 3 home runs.
You're watching the home of the Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, and White Sox, Comcast Sportsnet. From the Comcast Sportsnet studios, it's a Cadillac Sports Update.
Hi, everyone. Gail Fisher here in our Comcast Sportsnet studios. Be sure to stay tuned after the final out for Cubs postgame live as Dan Plesac joins me. And later tonight, Mark Burley takes the mound for the White Sox as they take on the Twins on the south side. And you can see the game right here on Comcast Sportsnet starting at 7 o'clock. But for now, let's send it back to Len and Bob.
Thanks, Gail. Joey Votto getting a nice hand from the audience here in Cincinnati. He has already hit 3 home runs. And he faces Michael Wirtz. Here's a pitch. Strike 1. Michael working from the stretch with nobody on base. A roller to short, and everybody went, oh. They get him out. Reds fans weren't happy. They wanted another home run. He gets a standing ovation. He just made his first out. Chevy player of the game, Joey Votto.
Guess who? Yeah, Joey Votto with 3 home runs in the ball game today. A solo bomb in the 2nd, another solo home run in the 5th, and then a 2-run home run in the 6th inning. Sandwiched between those home runs was a base on balls and a stolen base. So Joey Votto was a busy man today.
One strike on Dunn. Blanco in there catching. Did you see Henry's locker here? It said Hank White.
Really?
On the nameplate.
Yeah.
I think the clubhouse guys here were having a little fun with Henry. They had some white tape around his locker. I guess that was reserved for just him. The update on Brandon Phillips, he left with a bruised left calf. And that's why he had to come out in the 7th. Paid crowd, biggest attendance of the series, 28,418. 2-2 pitch, swing and the miss, strike 3.
And when you talk about the clubhouses here in Cincinnati, you have to mention the name Stowe, S-T-O-W-E, Bernie Stowe, the long-time equipment manager and clubhouse manager here for the Cincinnati Reds, and a couple of his sons, Mark Stowe on the visiting side, now Rick Stowe on the home side. They're probably the best known Reds, at least to the players that come in and out of Cincinnati. They do a great job here.
The 1-0 from Wirtz. A rainbow into center. It's PA. And we'll go to the 9th inning. Cubs are down 9-0 in the rubber game.
Hey fans, don't miss the action as the Cubs battle the Pirates on Friday, May 16th. Game time is 1:20, but be sure to arrive early. The first 10,000 fans will receive a Cubs drawstring bag, compliments of Harris.
Left-hander Jeremy Affelt takes over in the 9th. And he'll face Felix PA, Mike Fontenot, and Reed Johnson. So the battery, Affelt and Valentin, and the pitch to PA is low, ball 1. The next one, a strike. The Cubs may not see Orlando Hudson in the upcoming series. He has a strained right hamstring. Hit sharply on the ground, but right at Hairston. 1 out. Jimmy Rollins close to returning to the Phillies. He has a sprained ankle. I think he's ready. 6 for 8 with a homer, 3 doubles in a couple of rehab games. I guess it was an extended spring game. Nothing in 2 on Fontenot.
Yeah, those minor league guys like it when the big leaguers come down for some kind of a rehab assignment like that. Not only do you get a chance to pick the brain of a guy who's already made it where you hope to get someday, but usually they spring for some pretty good post-game spreads.
Yeah, I know Darrell Ward did that last year.
I know the conditions have improved considerably over the years, and The meal money's gone up. The salaries have gone up for minor league ball players, but they appreciate a good meal. A lot of times the pregame meal is crackers and peanut butter, and the postgame meals is peanut butter and crackers.
Really like to mix it up.
Yeah.
2-2. It's full. The Blue Jays lost 2 shortstops in the same game last night. David Eckstein with a sore groin, and John McDonald, who came in for him, hurt his ankle. Fontenot walks for the 3rd time in 4 plate appearances. He didn't even start. He came in as a pinch hitter in the 3rd inning and has played second base since. I'm looking forward to seeing the Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays, a couple of teams we don't see that much. Tampa Bay right now is in 2nd in the American League East. The Blue Jays are in last. They're 5.5 out, but 16-18, so they're not too far away from 500. The Cubs will not see the Yankees or the Red Sox in interleague play. They're playing the Orioles at home and the Rays and the Jays on the road. Ooh, that caught Bill Welke, a home plate umpire.
I'm not sure if that was a cross up or what happened there. I don't think Valentin got leather on that ball. Take another look at it here. Oh, it's in the dirt. He just tries to swipe play, and we'll say that got him on the inside of the thigh. I don't know about you, Len. I'm kind of excited to see Roy Halladay pitch when it doesn't really make any difference to me. I don't think the Cubs players are quite so excited about seeing him, but he's got 4 complete games already this season.
One and 2 on the former Blue Jay Reed Johnson. Be a big homecoming for Reed and for you, the former Blue Jays. Ted Lilly.
I think the Blue Jay fans are probably have a better recollection of Reed and Ted than they will of me.
That's old home week because Lou Piniella
will
be in his hometown. And we go to Tampa Bay, swing and the miss. So the Cubs are down to their final chance. Larry Rothschild, also former manager, the original manager of the then Devil Rays.
Toronto's 2nd in the American League in team ERA, behind Roy Halladay. Tampa Bay and Toronto ranked 2nd and 3rd in relief pitching in the American League.
Yeah, and the Rays last year were historically bad with their bullpen ERA. They have really turned it around. 2 down, and the pitch, a strike on Darrell Ward. The Edinson Volquez / Joey Votto show here in Cincinnati. Volquez, 7 innings, no runs, tied his career high with 10 strikeouts. Votto with 3 home runs.
Let me give you a hypothetical. If you're a beat writer for the Cincinnati Reds today, whose locker do you go to first? Because you know it's going to be a mad rush. Once that door opens up, you've got to make your choice. Do I want to get some sound bites from Joey Votto, or do I want to talk to the starting pitcher? Because they were both great today.
I think most would go to Votto first. That's why I probably go to Volquez. You might get better stuff.
Good call.
Tough to pass up a guy who hit 3 home runs. But the Cubs didn't square up Volquez really all day.
Well, and I have a feeling you're going to see more performances like we saw from Volquez. I don't know if you're going to see Joey Votto hit 3 homers in a game very often.
Darrell Ward keeps the Cubs alive. Alfonso Soriano will get a pinch hit appearance.
Let me ask you an even tougher hypothetical question. You're a Cubs beat writer. Where do you go in the Cubs clubhouse today?
Well, probably to the manager. I'm sure John Lieber will have some comments about his performance. Stand-up guy, but it just wasn't his day. He gave up 4 home runs in the second. The pitch to Soriano, outside, ball 1. A 1-0 offering. Now a ball and a strike. Kick and the pitch, a bouncer to third, and Encarnacion will step on the bag, and that's it. The Reds shut out the Cubs today 9-0. Off day tomorrow. 10-game homestand starts on Friday, and this is a game the Cubs would like to forget immediately. Definitely heard too much of the fireworks for our tastes. They just could not keep the Reds in the ballpark today.
That's really the bottom line. I mean, the wind was blowing across from right to left. May have helped a couple of those home run balls, but the wind was blowing the same direction for both teams. Edinson Volquez just too much today.
So Volquez beats Lieber, and the Cubs will head home after a 2-4 road trip. That'll do it for our game coverage. Stay tuned. More to come on Post Game Live. The final score once again: the Reds 9, the Cubs nothing. Our next Cubs telecast Monday night at 7 o'clock against the Arizona Diamondbacks. In-game scoring provided by ScorePad. And now for Bob Brenly and our entire crew, this is Len Casper. You've been watching Cubs baseball on Comcast Sportsnet. So long from Cincinnati.
Okay, guys, thank you. Gail Fisher here in the Comcast Sportsnet studios. Dan Plesac is standing by for Cubs Postgame Live. We'll look back at the Cubs road trip and preview their series with the Diamondbacks, which starts on Friday afternoon at Wrigley. That's coming your way on Cubs Postgame Live right after this timeout.
This on paper looks like a tough matchup. He has always been better against right-handers than left-handers. And right on cue, Joey Votto with a home run. And the Reds strike first.
It was rough from the get-go and stayed that way. A tough one to watch as the Cubs fall to the Reds 9-0 in the series finale, and not a good way to wrap up their 6-game road trip. All of Cincinnati's runs, by the way, came on the home run. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Hello and welcome to Lowe's Cubs Postgame Live. Gail Fisher and Dan Plesac here with you. It was a wet one after all in Cincinnati. The rain did come down, but the Cubs offense remained very dry. A lot of the credit for that, though, has to go to Edinson Volquez for the Reds, who pitched an outstanding game. Nothing good about this game, though, for the Cubs, Dan. The pitching failed them, and the offense was non-existent. Taking a look at Volquez's numbers, he went 7 innings. He struck out 10 and held the Cubs to just 4 hits. John Lieber, what can you say, Dan? You thought he could maybe give you 5 innings. He ends up only giving you 2.
Well, if you started out watching this game on Comcast this afternoon, you probably thought it was a 1960s remake from the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby. It was just a very bad day at the office for John Lieber. Len and Bob touched on it. He has had a lot of success in his career against right-handers, and the left-handed bats really killed John Lieber. I'm not sure if it's just as far as not getting enough work jumping into the starting rotation. I really thought that he would throw better, and that second inning was just one of those innings that every pitcher, you're going to have one of those innings. It seems like 1 or 2 times this season that, Gale, if you throw it over the plate, it's going to get hit. And unfortunately, 4 of them were hit out of the ballpark, and that second inning was just an inning that John Lieber could not stop the bleeding.
So he had a tough one, giving up 4 home runs in that second inning. Sean Marshall took over in the third. He too fell prey to the long ball. Cincinnati hitting 7 home runs total in this ball game. Back to Volquez now. He was dealing, shutting out the Cubs. And was it just a matter of he had nasty stuff today, or Cub hitters just couldn't get anything off of him?
When you fall behind like the Cubs did so early, 5-0, and you have a pitcher that brings his A game to the table, it's tough. You're playing catch up. You're starting to to expand your strike zone. You're trying to score a couple of runs in bunches if you can. And what you start doing, you be a little bit impatient. You start getting into the 4th, 5th, 6th inning. You're trying to get something started, trying to make some things happen, and you're falling right into a young pitcher like Volquez's hands. He had very good stuff. Low to mid-90s fastball, terrific changeup. He kept the Cub hitters off balance, but he was also aided by the fact when you're pitching with a big lead like that, it's much easier than a close game. The 6 walks didn't really come into effect because this game was so one-sided going into the 5th or 6th inning, and I guarantee you, walking 6 guys, but his stuff was terrific. Don't take anything away. I'm not taking anything away from the stuff that he has. He has great stuff. But in a game, if this was been a close game, sooner or later those walks would have caught up to him. But the lead was just too big.
Yeah, he was much more relaxed out there. He now moves to 5-1 on the year with his ERA down now to around 1. As far as Cub pitchers go, they had to use a lot of them, Dan, in this game throughout the bullpen. Not just John Lieber. Sean Marshall falls prey to some home runs. Was it just one of those days for Reds hitters, or was this set up weather-wise, perhaps, the ballpark to hit the home run?
Well, this was just a day that John Lieber made a lot of mistakes, particularly in the second inning out over the plate. Sean Marshall here leaves a breaking ball up in the inner half of the plate. And this was just one of those games where the Cub pitchers didn't pitch very well. I wouldn't really put too much stock in to this outing by John Lieber to say that he can't pitch in the bullpen or he can't be a starting pitcher. You're going to have some games like this. Unfortunately, at the major league level, as a reliever, you're going to get anywhere between 60 to 70 games, and you're going to have a handful where the wheels just come off. It's hard to stop the bleeding. And as a starting pitcher, the best starter in baseball this year is going to have 2 or 3 games where things just don't happen right. So I think to take out of this that John Lieber should go definitely back into the bullpen, I think is a mistake. He's proven he's been a good starting pitcher over his career, but I think it is a concern that the Cubs need to get some production out of the 4 and 5 spots.
And what did you say? Cincinnati needs to reorder some fireworks for the next homestand?
No, you said that, but I liked it.
All right, as we go to break, let's check out our Pontiac Opinion poll question of the day. How would the Cubs do in their weekend series with the Diamondbacks? They certainly need to bounce back at home. Will the Cubs take 2 of 3? Will they sweep? Will they lose 2 of 3? Or will they be swept by Arizona? Log on to ComcastSportsNet.com. Click the link to Chicago, then go to the Cubs page to cast your vote. We'll have the results later on Lowe's Cubs Postgame Live. Time now for our 4 seasons. Who's hot, who's not? Blake DeWitt of the Dodgers. How about this? He's hitting .474 with 2 home runs and 11 RBI. Now, who's not hot? Check out Ryan Howard, batting just .130. He's on the interstate, Dano. 1 home run and 9 strikeouts in the last week.
No, there's nothing wrong with that interstate. I rode that interstate for 18 years, Gail.
All right, well, it's better if, as a pitcher, you keep the opposing batters on the interstate. Welcome back. Gail Fisher here with Dan Plesac. Time now for our Feltco star of the game. And who else? It's got to be Reds first baseman Joey Votto. He hits 3 home runs in this game, nearly doubling his total for the season. 2 solo shots and a 2-run blast in the 6th.
Well, this was pretty much take me out to the ball game. 1, 2, 3 home runs, you're out. A career afternoon. You have to take your hat off to him. It was a terrific job. Here he takes a ball into left center field. He pulled 2 balls to right field. Just a terrific day, a career day. There's no question about it.
All right, when you take a look at the Cubs' numbers from today's game, you're not going to see much. They were shut out, and they only had 6 hits on the day. Kosuke Fukudome, though, getting a hit, his first hit in the last 4 games. On the flip side, Giovanni Soto, his 8-game hit streak comes to an end, and there's really not a whole lot to look at here, Dan.
No, this was just a game that the Cubs simply were just overmatched. Volquez brought his A game. He was able to pitch with a lead early on. When you're staked to a 5-0 lead, you're a lot more relaxed as a pitcher, feeling good about yourself, not afraid to challenge guys. The last thing you want to do is some base on balls. Unfortunately for the Cubs, he did walk 6. The Cubs had a couple of chances with one swing of the bat to somewhat get back into the game before the 5th and 6th inning. It didn't happen, but Volquez was the story. Volquez and Votto, they were terrific.
All right, still to come on the show. We'll look ahead to Friday's pitching matchup. But as we go to break, here is a look at our Just for Men hold statistics from the majors.
And now it's time for the Stay in the Game hold statistics of the day, brought to you by Just for Men Hair Color. Just as these middle relievers keep their team in the game, you too can stay in the game with Just for Men Hair Color.
Welcome back. Earlier in the show, we asked our Pontiac Opinion poll question of the day. How will the Cubs do in their weekend series with the Diamondbacks? Boy, you can tell that they lost big today. Almost 40% of you say they will be swept by the D-backs. So we're sure those weren't Sox fans calling in. 30% say they'll actually win the series, taking 2 of 3. So confidence factor low among fans who are watching the Cubs today. All right, today our sweet play of the game is actually our sweet play of the pregame. Yes, it's Mr. Redlegs getting a ride from Gapper here and then falls down off the back of the ATV and loses his head. Dan, we laugh. You laugh at it every time. He could have been hurt, but fortunately he was okay, holding his head a little bit. He can't be identified is the problem.
That reminds me of playing golf on an off day when I was with the Cubs in 1993, and Mark Grace and Ryan Sandberg and Steve Buechele and I was on the back of the cart, too lazy to walk to the other end of the fairway, so I stood up on the back of the golf cart, and Mark Grace floored the gas, and I went falling off.
Oh, geez. You didn't lose your head, though, did you?
Didn't lose my head.
All right, welcome back to Lowe's Cubs Postgame Live. The Cubs have the day off tomorrow before opening a 10-game homestand on Friday, starting with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Speaking of Mark Grace, who will be in town calling that game for the D-backs. Ted Lilly will make his 8th start of the season as we take a look at the pitching matchup for Game 1 on Friday. Darren Herron throws for the D-backs. He's 4-1 on the year, so having some early season success. The good news about Lilly, when you look at his numbers, Dan, he's turning things around. He was 0-3 to start the season, but has now gone 2-1 in his last 3 starts.
Gail, his last 3, he has been much better. He still isn't quite at what he was last year, but he's showing signs of snapping out of it. His velocity is slowly creeping back up to the high to mid-80s, and he needs to pitch in the 86 to 89 mile an hour range to make that curveball more effective. He needs a big difference between his fastball and that big curveball. This is going to be a big series for the Cubs because they are going to have to pitch very well in this series, because you could make a case right now that the Diamondbacks are very deep in their starting rotation, and the last thing you want to do against the Diamondbacks is fall behind and try to come back onto that bullpen. They have some very good arms in the bullpen. This will be a good test of 2 teams in the National League.
One thing I just want to clear up before we go in the pregame, I mentioned that Scott Air will return for that series against the D-backs. Lou Piniella had thought about keeping 13 pitchers. He told Paul Sullivan of the Chicago Tribune that he actually is not going to keep 13 pitchers. Quickly, Dan, who do you send back down? That's the million-dollar question. I wouldn't have any idea. Just right off the top of the head, you may be looking at somebody like a Mike Fontenot. You have Mark DeRosa that can play a lot of different positions in the infield. That would just be my guess. All right, we will miss the D-back series altogether. Our next Cubs telecast here on Comcast Sportsnet is Monday when they welcome in the Padres. Until then, he's Dan Plesac. I'm Gail Fisher. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.